Welcome everyone to the closed session portion of the city council meeting. I am calling this meeting to order. The time is now 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Here.
Councilmember McLean-LeJean.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Here.
And Mayor Martinez.
Present. We will now hear public comments. Zoom participants, please use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, does anyone have a public comment tonight?
There are no public comments.
Mr. City Attorney, can you please read the closed session item into the record?
Absolutely, Mayor Martinez. There's one item on closed session tonight for the council, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D. The case name is OPV Coalition et al. Versus Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency et al. And the case number bearing Santa Barbara County Superior Court case number is listed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Kevin Spaulding. Do council members have any conflicts to disclose for the listed closed session agenda item? Okay, council will now recess to closed session. The time is now 6:01 p.m. We'll be back at 6:30. Thank you. Welcome everyone to the regular city council meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is now 6:35 p.m. Can everybody please stand and join me for the flag salute? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Here.
Councilmember McQueen Lejean,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Here.
and Mayor Martinez.
Present. All right. Dear guests and esteemed members of the City Council, today is my turn for the inspiration, and I stand before you to celebrate a momentous occasion that brings joy to the hearts of people all around the world, because tomorrow we will be celebrating the first day of summer. It's a season that fills our lives with warmth, laughter, and endless possibilities. As we welcome this season of sunshine and longer days, let us reflect on what it means to not only us, but the entire world and our beloved city, our friendly city by the sea. Our small, friendly community welcomes the arrival of summer. It signifies the time when our pristine beach comes alive with the sound of laughter and crashing of waves and squeals of children building sandcastles. It's time when families and friends gather to create memories that will last a lifetime. But summer in our city means much more than just sand and surf. It's a time when our communities celebrate the 4th of July, pride of patriotism, and a deep sense of appreciation for a nation's history. It's also a time where we get to celebrate the Wainimi Beach Festival. So I'm super excited about the Wainimi Beach Festival. And as we embark on this summer journey, let us embrace the opportunities that lie ahead. So thank you for your time, and let's embrace the warmth of summer starting tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, can you please provide a closed session report?
Absolutely, Mayor Martinez. There was no reportable action taken in closed session tonight.
Okay. We will now hear public comments not pertaining to items on the agenda. Zoom participants, please use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. This process will be the same for comments pertaining to each agenda item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments tonight?
We have a couple of public comments. First one from Becky Bruning.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Martinez, Mayor Pro Tem Perez, council members and staff. My name is Becky Bruning, and tonight I'm here representing Roe Guppy Outdoors. We are going to have our first fundraiser in August, and this coming Sunday is our family fish day. Last month, we had over 100 people show up, and we're hoping for the same thing this Sunday.
This Sunday?
This Sunday, yes, from 8 to 11. That's it.
Thank you, Becky.
Joan Tharp.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Mayor Pro Tem, staff, and the public. Over the last several weeks, we have seen many of our local marine mammals, such as California sea lions, which are considered sentinel mammals, or a type of species that indicates the health of their environment, stranded on our beaches, acting disoriented or lethargic, rolling in the waves, and possibly seizing and dying on our local beaches. When sea mammals seek our shores, it is to rest when they are tired, sick, injured, or dying. Currently, the West Coast is experiencing unprecedented die-offs of dolphins and California sea lions due to harmful algal bloom near the Channel Islands in the deeper ocean beyond. We commonly refer to these algal blooms as red tides. These blooms are usually seasonal. Our red tides normally occur in late summer, but pollution from winter storms and changing ocean temperatures have created conditions for this harmful bloom caused by phytoplankton that favors these current ocean conditions. The species of phytoplankton produces an overabundance of a neurotoxin that works its way up the food chain from fish to the brains and hearts of the sea mammals. This resulting disease in sea mammals is called domoic acid poisoning, and it attacks the hippocampus or the GPS system of these animals, causing disorientation, foaming at the mouth, seizures, immobility, and death. There's no known treatment or cure for this disease, although some California sea lions can expel the toxin within a 74-hour window if they remain protected and unharmed by people on the beaches. The public, people, and dogs need to stay away from marine mammals at least the length of a school bus. These animals are stressed by people getting too close and may bite, which is why I'm addressing you tonight. I witnessed someone approach and touch a stranded sea lion the other day. He almost got bit. I'd like to ask the city to help educate people to this issue through social media and website posts if possible, and to post signs near the entryway to the beach. These signs can be obtained from Channel Islands Marine and Wildlife Institute, or SIMWI. SIMWI is the only nonprofit stranding network in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties that is licensed through NOAA and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to assess, rescue, rehab, and release sea mammals. These animals are under federal protection by law under the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. Other things you can do: if you see a sea mammal stranded on the beach, call SIMWI at 805-567-1505. Support measures to reduce over-application of nitrogen-based fertilizers and pesticides that reach our ocean. Support nonprofits like SIMWI and Surfrider, whose missions are to protect the mammals in the oceans they call home. Again, I want to stress how important it is to give these animals space on the beach and in the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public comment.
Okay, it's time for the agenda approval for our council meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Move to approve?
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you please take a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
All right, do any members of council have any conflicts of interest to disclose on any one item? All right, hearing none. We will now call to order the Housing Authority Special Meeting Joint Session with the City Council. It is now 6:42 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Member Gama,
Here.
Member Hernandez. Here. Member McQueen-Lejeune.
Here.
Member Blackwell.
Here.
Member Brown.
Here.
Vice Chair Perez.
Here.
And Chair Martinez.
Present. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Okay, we will now consider items on the consent calendar, which will be enacted in one motion unless there is a request to remove one item for discussion. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
I'd like to request pulling item 13 for discussion.
Right now, it's 1 through
Oh, I'm sorry.
3 for the consent.
So move to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you please take vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we don't have any business items tonight. We will move on to the authority members' reports, comments, and requests for future agenda items.
I have none. Thank you.
Member Blackwell,
None.
council. Okay, so that was quick. Adjournment of the Port Hueneme Housing Authority special meeting. The Port Hueneme Housing Authority will adjourn to its next regular meeting July 3rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. And we will now reconvene to the city council regular meeting. The time is now 6:44 p.m. We're gonna move on to the presentation. Item number 4, Chief of Police introduction. Interim City Manager Tony Stewart.
Great, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. I would like to call our new police chief, Michael Federico, up to the podium, just say a few words about him, and he'd be available for any questions and comments from you folks. But thank you again. So, like I mentioned, I'd like to introduce our brand new police chief. He actually started on June 9th. With us a little bit after our last meeting, so that's why we're introducing him this evening. And there'll be a swearing-in ceremony this Thursday afternoon right out front City Hall at 2 p.m. And that'll be open to the public as well if they'd like to attend. But for those of you who don't know Chief Federico, he actually has been a member of our community here for more than 30 years. He and his daughter Cameo, who's here, sitting here, there she is. And also, Chief Federico actually worked for us once upon a time ago, about 20 years ago, for a few years, actually about 10 years. He then went on to the city of Santa Monica for about another 20 years. Worked his way up through the ranks there and has come back to here at home with Port Hueneme. So welcome back, Chief. In addition, Chief is a former small business owner. As you know, he and his daughter owned Rico's Italian Villa up on Channel Islands Boulevard once upon a time. And they both spend quite a bit of their time with nonprofits. Chief is the board president for the Down Syndrome Association of Los Angeles. They're also dog rescuers and spend a lot of time with their dogs. And Chief also likes traveling, especially to his hometown of Boston, as well as, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but Abruzzo, Italy?
Abruzzo, yeah, that's good.
Okay. I know my name's Tony, but I'm actually not Italian. So for the sake of time, though, at this point, I will let Chief Federico say a few words
Thank
about his
you.
career highlights.
Thank you, Tony.
and
Thank you
answer any
all.
questions.
I'm very humbled and honored to return home here to Port Hueneme PD in the community where I started my peace officer career. I've been, as Tony said, I've been a member of this community for over 30 years, living in both an apartment and a house just blocks from us here. And my daughter and I also had our very community engaged Italian family restaurant. She's so much more cooler than me. Like she is. She's the party, I'm the business. It's worked out good. Yeah. So with that background, I have an appreciation for not only our residents, but our small business community and our business community in general. My barber, my hair salon, my dog vet, groomers, optometrist, favorite coffee house right across the street. It's all within the city. We've been enjoying volunteering in the community and attending many great events. And if there's live music anywhere in this city, then that's where you're going to find Cameo. As for PHPD, I am humbled to have seen some of the programs I started in the 1990s last for years after I left. Most dear to my heart is our Police Explore program. We did not have an Explore program here when I started at Hueneme, and I was a product of another agency's Police Explore or Sheriff's Explore program. So that program helped me to be successful as a young man, and I wanted to do the same for our youth in this community. I'm excited that the program is doing so well thanks to the work of our Explore advisors and the dedication of our young police explorers on the whole team. They're building successful futures for themselves and giving back to service in our community. And folks, I truly do love this program. I just want to take a second to applaud all the work that's done by the advisor. Yeah, and I know I'm being recognized today for returning back to a team that I started with, but I'd like to take a moment to applaud our entire team at PHPD because they've kept the organization so great for 20 years. Chaplains included, Merrick, chaplains included. Folks, I really have to, Cameo and I had a different game plan before folks told me that this spot would be opening and to come home. And there was a lot of recruitment to get me home. So I just want to take a moment to recognize Cameo for allowing us to share her dad with the community and put on hold all of our other plans. She's excited to be here, and we're already calling her she said, I'm my dad's boss. So we're calling her the commissioner, AKA the commish. So,
I love you, Daddy.
I love you, baby. The support I've received from the members of the community and employees in this city has been overwhelming and very emotional. I love this city and I love this police department. I've been talking highly about it and bragging about it. Not only just the city, but the police department during my career down in Santa Monica. It's not one person that makes an organization great, and none of us are as smart as all of us. And that is a solid saying. If we can't bring minds together and make decisions, not one person leading any organization does it all, and not one person makes the best decisions. We work together as a team, and you will see us work together as a team. It's very true in this city government of Port Hueneme. When I was here in the 90s, we had some incredible teamwork that I've talked about to this day and brought to my time in LA County about how public works and facilities and HR, we all did great facilities, housing. We worked as a team in the city, and it's something that's a huge benefit in a smaller town. And I look forward to seeing those days again. This is truly an awesome place to work, and it's unique with its residents, businesses, the Hueneme Beach, Port of Hueneme Navy Base. This friendly city by the sea is truly the pearl of the California Gold Coast, and we see it the more you're around it and the more you spend time here. Early in the process for Chief, I watched our council in November last year talk to the recruiter about what they wanted to see in their chief. No longer seated, but Mayor Rich Rollins said, I want experience, someone who's experienced dealing with homeless, not only from a law enforcement standpoint, but a social standpoint, finding best solutions of an individual basis. Well, folks, I spent 20 years at Santa Monica PD, where we are known as leading the all-encompassing approach on dealing with homeless concerns, and we've been known for that for decades. Traffic was another concern of his. Continuing theme in our city, he said, how can we find a way of calming the traffic? I have a plan for that, and I'm tapping into some of the ideas that our folks are already throwing at me. You will see motorcycle officers returning to this city as fast as I can get them here. And I've got great support from Tony and everybody else to make that happen. And I think some are excited to ride bikes. We have good youth engagement with the Explorers, said Rich. Can they reach out to the community and deal with youth before they get into trouble? As I said, folks, I started our Explorer program here out of a passion and a love for the program. So from scratch, brought it here over 25 years ago. And we've raised some youth out of that in an incredibly positive way. Several of us in this department and city employees have helped many families in the Hueneme-Oxnard area with troubled kids and just families going through some tough times. This is a very compassionate group of people behind me. It was a compassionate group of people back in the 90s. And we try to do our best to be guardians and take care of this community. And I have to say, I look back at those, part of my emotion on this point is I look back at those relationships even in the 1990s, helping some young people in high school. And even tonight, we have a couple of former, homegrown Hueneme that went on to break records on our high school football fields and went on to play in the NFL with very impressive careers. But I got both Ronnie Jenkins here, Lorenzo Booker, and they will tell you that at different points in their life, it wasn't just the compassionate members of this police department that did our best to help them out and keep them focused, but there's even people in the different parts of City Hall, Marla and Housing back in the day, several people that came together in this city to help give a positive path for many of the youth in the city. The neighborhood watch support was another thing he asked for, and I was Port Hueneme PD's first community resources officer, folks, in the 1990s, which later grew into what we now call beat coordinators. Our now mayor, Bobby Martinez, you asked for a leader who knows and understands our community, and as I've said, I think I've defined that role. You asked for someone with a kind heart, but who could be tough and get people to listen and carry out orders. There were several employees here that supported me in coming back to Hueneme PD. If you ask people at Santa Monica PD, they will tell you I'm a personnel guy, and I led our peer support team and wellness campaigns in the department. When I had to hold someone accountable, they knew it was coming from a place of fairness and support. You asked for someone willing to think outside the box and carry new systems that other people would be scared to try, that would improve the quality of life for the residents and visitors. Well, at Santa Monica, I brought some new internal programs that created a more respectful, compassionate workforce, because that's what you want. You want guardians out there that are being respectful and compassionate to our public. I also brought new technologies in, especially in my time running detectives and investigations, that improved everything from our to our services to our victims, but internally their workload. 25 to 30 years ago here at Hueneme PD, I started many youth programs, one of which I've described, but I also brought our first police storefronts, police community storefronts. The first one in Marina Village for 6 months, and that was a great partnership with a resident owner, and the other was in our shopping center for the first time. Mayor Pro Tem Misty Perez, you had asked, someone who is local, has relationships with our local chiefs, police associations, and knows this county. I have lived in this county for over 40 years. I was a Ventura Sheriff's Explorer, PHP officer, and now I've lived and worked in most of the neighborhood, or most of the communities in this county. I have relationships with all the law enforcement leaders, some of which it shouldn't surprise you, started their careers at Hueneme PD, and now they're police chiefs, and they've been sheriffs, and the father of modern law enforcement in Ventura County, Al Gelati, was a police chief here and went on to run the sheriff's department. So you produce leaders, and you produce compassionate leaders, and you should know that because they've gone on to do so. My relationship with them is strong, and with the unions are strong. You ask for someone who has the ability to bring the department together as a whole and make tough and decisive decisions, but still at the same time, and the department that the people in the department can approach and have a good relationship, be respected, bring together instead of create division. I was supported by most of the department to come back and lead them, and I have to say most. I was well known at Santa Monica for not only being a people person, but I was often placed into teams that were having personnel difficulties. I was called a fixer for the personnel. So I would leave those teams better than when I showed up. With a history like that, I was often called into difficult decisions in the onset, but by the time I left, we were in a better place. Councilmember Gama, you asked for someone that is community minded and understands our complex community, is intimately familiar with the city. I think I explained that in detail earlier. And I'm quite confident that there were no other candidates that were members of this community for over 30 years, that worked at PHPD in the past, that started programs in the city that are still in place today, that lived in an apartment in the city, lived in a house, and owned a family restaurant in this city. I think intimate's a fair word, sir. I'm not dating this city, I'm married to it. Councilmember Hernandez, you asked for someone that would support Neighborhood Watch, provide public education portions of PHPD, and I explained earlier, I was the first community resources officer. And you have seen my public outreach. Have you seen my public outreach video from 1997? My hair looked great in that video. It's great. You got to see it. It was we did a great outreach video, had members of the department, and I introduced the world to Hueneme PD. You asked for someone who can curb homelessness, curb speeding, and I think I explained that in my earlier. You asked for someone who can work with the clubs, graffiti problems, work with taggers, and approach the part of society that has difficulty in following the rules and embracing them. I mentioned amongst the things I did was youth programs, but at Santa Monica, I led a team that started our first juvenile diversion program to keep kids out of custody. Not only that, but I have had many troubled family members of my own, and I think they would have a different path today if they had some of the guidance that we provide from those juvenile diversion programs. The juvenile diversion program we started has become one of the most progressive and well-known and well-respected in Southern California, and I can't wait to get working on one here and to work with the county on theirs. You asked for, let's see. Well, I will also say this. I'm also a little emotional because we're young people in this community that are now grown up, successful adults that were the subject of radio calls, considered the problem in society in this town many years ago. And those folks have asked me to come back as chief. And I love that they're coming up and hugging me. Some of them I even arrested. So that's what you're getting back into this town. You asked for technical ability, understanding technology behind dispatch, communication center, and the emergency operations center. Thank you for this. I have worked 4 different agencies' dispatch communication centers during my career. I've also been a dispatch supervisor and a dispatch manager a few times in my career. And not just for police, but combined police and fire. And I was temporarily assigned to the unique role over at the city manager's office in Santa Monica to be a manager in the Office of Emergency Management. And many years ago, I was certified as an ICS instructor, and I taught all supervisors and managers in Santa Monica the incident command system, as well as several police departments in Los Angeles County, the best role and best practices of incident command and how to handle large-scale events, both planned and unplanned. My audience includes sitting police chiefs, no pressure there, but my audience had sitting police chiefs in it from some of the most well-known cities in LA. You asked for a chief that would consider growing and developing special units. I was sending info and offering as much help as I could to Henry Montalvo, our HLO, long before I ever got here. We vetted some great approaches on homeless concerns, and I was getting stuff to Henry as fast as I could, whether I eventually took this job or not. I wanted to see it be successful. I care about this community. I said I love this community. I do. So in my first week, I already began working to return motorcycle officer assignments to our ranks, which will be followed by canine positions, along with, I'm glad to say, I haven't stressed out Sylvia and Bob, my managers, yet, but I've thrown so much at them in those first couple of weeks that I do appreciate them and them hanging in there. And I'm glad you asked for that, because I'm going to be asking some of you to support those things when I start throwing them at the council. So I just want to finish up with one other thing. You asked for a good communicator that's approachable, can work in the community, and you would like a chief who was bilingual in Spanish. I think I covered the approachableness, and as for Spanish, first of all, I came originally from Boston, so the English language was hard because I had to find the letter R. Everything was Paquicá and Havagans. And I learned the letter R, so I figured I could learn other things when I got here. So for me, hablo español un poquito. ¿Por qué? Similar italiano. Hablo italiano un poquito. Verdad? Like, they're the same, right? So if you think my Spanish is bad, you should hear my Italian. But I've used my Spanish. It's good Italian.
We are Italian.
We are Italian. I've used it's very funny, but I've used my Spanish. I want to say I've worked every day since June 9th since I got here, whether it's answering somebody's question on parking tickets or whether it's just bumping into somebody in the lobby with a question. And also people see Federico, and so right away they start. And then I was like, wait, slow down. My key is lentamente, lento, both in Italian and Espanol. I ask people to speak a little slower, and then I'll stay with them. My point is, we have plenty of Spanish speakers in the department that will do all the translation. But if somebody feels they need to talk directly to their police chief because they have a concern and they are primarily Spanish speaking, I will be there to do my best and understand. Estudiar español en escuela, pero estudiar italiano con mi familia. So I took the time to understand Spanish in school and take the classes. The Italian I learned with the family, so I'm a mess when it comes to combining both. And I will end with this. Councilmember McQueen, Lejeune, you were not a sitting council member at that November meeting. However, we've previously talked about juvenile diversion and youth programs. So I have to say, I hope to meet your expectations. And as we go through this journey together, and I'm going to bounce some more ideas off of you. I've been listening to council meetings for the past 2 years, and I've heard the community's concerns in the city. I plan to address them, folks, with the best means possible with my team. I don't do the work, they do. They're incredible. I want to thank all the members of this community who welcomed me. I've gotten a lot of hugs. Doesn't matter if it's Anna Cappuccino, if it's Starbucks. Don't tell Jessica I've gone into Starbucks. But Anna Cappuccino or Starbucks, or just going down the street, or after doing a walkthrough at Surfside, and then I make my way up Willowbrook, and I run into people who used to be Rico's Italian Villas customers. So I love what I'm seeing, and I love the support. It's very overwhelming. And I listened to those council meetings for the last 2 years, and I'm taking notes. I want to say thank you all for your support, and on behalf of my team and me here at Hueneme PD, who I appreciate so much, I just want to say we got you, Port Hueneme, and we look forward to going through this journey with you ahead. And the commission. Thank you.
I love my daddy.
Chief, before you leave, we'd like to share a few comments. So can you and Cammie come back? Come on back, Cammie. Might even give you a chance at the mic. Yeah. Chief Federico, I just want to offer a kind congratulations and welcome you here to our friendly city by the sea. And as you know, you're going to have to fill some pretty big shoes. Salinas was a stellar chief and he maintained very high standards. So my expectation is that you meet those standards and even exceed them. And I really appreciate hearing your experience because I had no idea that you brought this amount of experience from Santa Monica. And having worked in Santa Monica, I know that there's a lot of programming and things that you can lend here to us in our small city on a smaller scale. So thank you for that. I know that you report directly to the city manager, but I want you to know that for the city council, we're here to support you, to make sure that you have the resources you need to effectively police our city and make sure that we have a safe community. I imagine you're probably still assessing what's going on in the police department and trying to figure out where you're going to make some changes or improvements. So I hope that you come back to us and you let us know what your plans are when you're ready to do that, and then provide us with your regular periodic crime reports as we had with Chief Salinas. You nail almost everything that I'm going to be looking for: traffic safety plan, neighborhood watch. That was one thing we couldn't seem to get put into place over the past few years, but I really would like to see neighborhood watch brought back. Our HOA uses the neighborhood watch concept, and we have regular meetings all the time. I'd like to see that citywide. Last year I met with dispatch during a ride along, and I know the dispatch center is not yet complete. I hope you will make that a priority and you'll listen to the dispatchers in terms of what their needs are and take good care of them. Those people have been without a functioning an ideal environment for doing their job. They really do need your care, and we need to take care of them. Also, you're likely to have some upcoming vacancies, either soon or down the road. I would like to implore you to consider some of our fine female officers and make sure that they have opportunities to advance up the chain of command. I think we could set an example for other departments, and I think our female officers here deserve that opportunity. So with that, good luck, and thank you for joining us. Congratulations again, and congratulations to you too, Cammie. I know you're very proud of your dad.
Thank you. And as far as dispatch, thankfully Gabby hasn't run away from me yet over facilities. She's helping me get moving on the construction. And as far as promoting females, some of the best people I ever worked for in this industry and some of my best mentors were females.
Thank you so much for selecting Wainimi to be our chief. Your history here is amazing, and I couldn't be happier to know that a nationwide recruitment ended up finding it right here in our backyard. And I know you're going to do great things for us, and I'm really appreciative of the effort that you focus with our youth in our community. It's a big, big priority, and I love the fact that you got some ex-Wainimi Vikings. I was on the sidelines watching these guys play, and I appreciate them very much. And but it just goes to show all of us that if we reach out and we connect and we talk to youth and engage them in either picking up trash, sports, anything that gets them connected to something positive, good things will happen. And I look forward to many new initiatives and just super excited for you to be here, and thank you.
And to touch on that one, both of them will humbly not say, but they do a lot behind the scenes for youth programs in the Oxnard Plain. And both of them have committed to help me with some of our youth programs. So I appreciate them both.
Great. I just want to say welcome back, Chief, and hearing your background, your experience. I'm looking forward to what you're going to be able to do in this city. There is a lot to do. And so I think you probably touched on most of the areas where we have seen some concerns. And so I'm just looking forward to the work that you're going to do for the city. And like the other council person said, we'll be here for you to give you the support that you need. So thanks again for selecting us.
I don't even know what to say. So I'm just glad to have you back here. I know you weren't planning on it. It was kind of my husband who kind of dragged you kicking and screaming when you were setting sail or wanting to set sail for Italy and go into retirement. But I'm glad you stuck it through. And now that you're here and you see what you need to do, and I knew as soon as that first day arrived that everything else would be irrelevant. And then you would get to work, and your skills and your experience and everything that you had to offer this department and our community would come out. And I'm looking forward to what you have to do, because I hear everything that you're wanting to do. I've been listening to it, and I'm excited about it and can't wait for you to get going and get things moving. So I know you have great things for our department, and I know they are excited to have you, which is the most important thing for me for that, is them having a leader that they can trust and respect and want. And I know that was important for them. So welcome home.
Thank you.
And I know you have high expectations, but we also have high expectations. But nonetheless, I just want you to know that I'm really happy that you're here, and I'm really proud to call you our chief. So thank you. Thank you very much. And hopefully we can all give him another round of applause to our new police chief, Mike Federico, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Tammy.
We will now move on to presentation number 5, presented by the U.S. Navy on base, perimeter security, and no parking signs on San Pedro Street. For our next presentation, I'd like to welcome Deputy Public Works Officer, Mr. Mark Lukenhaus.
Yep, good. So, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, the one thing I've learned in my career is that when given a presentation, never follow a good act. And here I am following the introduction of the Chief of Police with a heck of an impressive resume, so I'm going to do my best. At least I'm coming with a slide deck here. The reason why I'm talking to you is to bring to your attention a topic that maybe a lot of people would consider small, but if you take a look at it in the eyes of Naval Base Ventura County and security, it's rather significant. And what I want to talk about is the whole issue of no parking signs that are placed along our perimeter fence. The objective of my presentation is not to have a decision or anything, but basically just to create awareness of the importance of those signs to us and to our base security. Next slide, please. Oh, it's up for me. Got it. There we go. Okay. My presentation will basically cover 5 areas. Number 1, I just wanted to give an overview of the Naval Base Ventura County, talk about military compatibility areas, current world threats, physical security versus anti-terrorism, and base security requirements and the need for these signs. As a recap with regards to Naval Base Ventura County, we may seem like quiet neighbors, but we are a rather significant installation. We have 3 different sites, Point Mugu, Port Hueneme, and San Nicolas Island.
Hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that we can all keep it down, please. I know there's a lot of excitement going on, but.
Okay. So, in general, both direct and indirect, the base does bring about $4.6 billion worth of economic impact to the area. We are a large employer, about 24,000 civilian employees and 4,000 sailors. With that on the base, we support a lot of activities. We support 85 tenant commands, basically 3 CB battalions, 4 Hawkeye squadrons, which are all deployable, and 3 warfare centers, all involved in the area of research. We have basically about over 1,300 family housing units, 1,600 facilities, 5 childcare centers, 4 fire departments, 3 galleys, a couple of launch pads, basically 2,500 acres of wetlands, and on top of that, we also have about 16 miles worth of railroad track. So as you can see, the base is multifunctional, such that if world events demand us to us, we have a lot of capabilities that we could bring to the table to support world events. Okay. With the military campus, we also have what's called compatibility areas. And these compatibility areas are basically established boundaries which guide the compatible development and the separation between the local community and the military base. Basically, the purpose of these military compatibility areas are to basically promote the orderly transition between the community and the military environments, to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and to maintain the operational capabilities of both you all, the community, and us, the military installation. Okay. The MCAs are basically documented in our 2015 joint land use study, but it's also been incorporated in the City of Port Hueneme General Plan back in 2021. What I'd like to point out with these military compatibility areas is the fact that it also includes what we call 20-foot setbacks between our perimeter fence. You know, our perimeter fence, 20 feet out, we want to keep things very clear. 30 feet in, we keep things clear on our end. And the purpose of, you know, and these are very important for reasons I'll go into in a second. Bear with me, I'm still recovering from a frog in my throat here. So, if you keep up with world events, you'll notice that not everybody is our friend. All right. Obviously, what's going on in the Ukraine, we're supporting the Ukrainians against their challenges or their invasion with Russia. China is sitting back looking at this whole event because they have their eyes on Taiwan, another country that we are supposed to defend. Iran is obviously in world events, supplying drones and stuff to Russia, and everybody knows about North Korea with regards to its oppressive regime. With that being said, these countries are always very interested to either get on our installations for observation and or disruption. Since September 11th, military installations have been required to meet very stringent standards with regards to both anti-terrorism and physical security. Anti-terrorism is basically the defensive measures used to reduce the vulnerability of individuals and property, and physical security is that part of the security that's concerned with the physical measures designed to safeguard personnel. Both physical security and anti-terrorism are the responsibility of what we call our Force Protection Group. The Force Protection Group basically operates under very established and very strict Navy directives. We have the OPNAV instruction 5530, Unified Facilities Criteria, Navy tactics and techniques and procedures. And these directives mandate a lot of requirements for security for the Force Protection Group to maintain the security of the base. And a big portion of that is, again, maintaining those clear zones along our perimeter fence. 20 feet on the inside, 30 feet on the inside. And what's the purpose of this clear zone? Well, the clear zone is basically to prevent concealment, okay, so that people cannot hop our fences or get over our fences, and allows us to have easy inspection of the perimeter fences to ensure the security. This is the point I'm making. To maintain those clear zones, okay, on the perimeter fences, we really can't afford to have vehicles parked along those fences, okay? Therefore, the no parking signs. This is a good example of the San Pedro Road, whereby we have our fence line. You can see where the red demarks the 30 feet interior, the black demarks the 20 feet exterior. These things, these areas of clearance are very important to us to maintain, okay? And I guess what we're doing is just making sure you're aware of the importance of these things and to making sure that if the situation arises whereby neighbors, hey, would like to take down these signs for additional parking and stuff like that, we're very sensitive about that because what we're trying to do is protect our compound so that we're protecting the people within our campus. So with that, I will take any questions that you may have on this.
Yes, Councilmember Gama.
Thank you for coming out and sharing that with us. As you know, parking's an issue for our residents, and I'm wondering how it is that you could tolerate parking at Silver Strand Beach right up along the fence lines where you can't even open your car door, and we can't consider parking over here on San Pedro. I know that during the robotics competition, we opened that parking up, and then we shut it down. So could you tell us the difference between Victoria fence line and San Pedro?
No, that's an outstanding point. No, we're not happy with the Victoria fence line in the Silver Strand. That is a problem area for us, and that is what we're trying to address that, okay? We're not perfect all the way around, but I guess if we are compromised in certain areas, I would say that's not an argument for us to continue to be compromised in other areas. So we're part of our encroachment policies and our procedures. We are working to address those areas also. But what we don't want to do is a further degradation of the clear zones that we have.
Yeah, but the parking's way worse over there at Silver Strand than it is in San Pedro.
Okay.
But I just think that it would be nice if we could open that up for our residents because they struggle to park. And, we have to coexist together, and hopefully we could work together. And, I know that, there's a lot of space on the base that looks like it's not being utilized, i.e. the baseball fields. The weeds are like 3, 4, or 5 feet tall. And, we have a need to get our youth engaged in sporting events. And we're going to have, anyways, we do need more play fields. And so I just hope that we could approach this in a partnership manner. That we, the Navy has been great to our community. There's no doubt about it. And it's been here since 41, I believe, right?
41, 40,
right.
Yeah.
And the contributions that the Navy base here in Ventura County has had during world conflicts is huge. We see it documented in our museum and all those wonderful reminders of how important national security is. And so, and then I look at other bases down in San Diego, and I've had the opportunity to go and travel and do some work on some other bases. So I just hope that we could have an open mind and acknowledge that, well, Silver Strand, you're not meeting those objectives. And over here on San Pedro, we do have a need for parking. So we have to work together, and I know we do. And hopefully we could kind of find a way to satisfy both of us.
No, very good point, sir. And we're always very much want to be good neighbors and work with y'all. We're stuck with each other, so might as well. So no, we will always work in a collaborative fashion with you. All I'm trying to do right now is just bring awareness to one area that is very sensitive to us. And as you said, we're not perfect. There are certain areas which our security standards are less than what we want it to be. What we're trying to do is not have a further degradation, but basically turn the tide and go the other way so that we are protecting our commands and our people. So, okay.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you so much for your presentation. In my former life, back in 1998, I was with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services and established the first Homeland Security anti-terrorism working group.
Hats off to you.
And early warning group. And that was before 9/11. When 9/11 happened, our world changed. And we did a lot of target hardening of our government facilities throughout the county. I even recommended that city councils have bulletproof diocese. I don't think that happened here, but I do watch the news and I pay close attention what's happening around the globe. And I am very happy to see that the base is taking proactive measures because our security has been degraded over the years. 9/11 was, what, 20 some years ago?
Yeah.
20 plus years ago, and we started rolling back our security. And we're not as vigilant as we used to be. And I think we need to really maintain that. We're coming back into an environment where those threats are very real. So I appreciate the presentation, I appreciate the thought, and I'm glad to see the security measures that the base is taking. It's something we should all pay attention to.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. As someone who just retired a year ago after 33 years working for the military, it kind of scares me somewhat when I hear you say that there's degradation already. You showed, I think, 3 instructions and so I'm not really sure. I didn't see what names were on those instructions, but just want to be clear about those instructions don't come from Naval Base Ventura County.
No,
Right. So they come from the Secretary of Navy sometimes.
they come from the CNO.
CNO, Chief of Naval Operations.
That is true.
And so we're compliers to that, right? And so I just appreciate you coming out and giving us that information. Very good. And our security as it relates to the military facility is very important. I remember having gate runners, and this is coming through the guard gate, right? Not jumping a fence. We have some fence jumpers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about national security,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And the folks who support national security here locally.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So yes, thank you for your presentation. It is very surprising to me to hear that we're still having an issue with security. And you would think this day and age with all the technology that we have, we would be moving upwards instead of it degrading. So that was very
Yeah. So
eye-opening to see, but
yeah. Okay. So it's a very interesting point, and if you bear with me to ad lib a little bit, I think a lot of it is a lot of times we do get a little bit of encroachment. We just don't have the focus on it. We have our eyes on something else, and we wake up one day and go, hey, wait a minute, we've got a problem over here, and it's really hard to correct what's been done. You can't just wake up and tell people to move back a little bit. And so it does take a lot of coordination and collaboration with local communities to try to get us back to our state. The thing about the technology, that's also a good one also in the sense that we're always fighting for dollars at our shore installation. Is the age-old story of, do we want to put money into this military base that looks good, or do we want to get another aircraft carrier launched? And a lot of times we lose the fight with the surface line, but we do the best we can.
thank you.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation. I do just want to confirm that on the Victoria side, on the Silver Strand side, people are parking on that side.
We know, we're very aware of that, and we've definitely engaged. I'd like to introduce, oh, there you are. I'd like to introduce Kendall Lawson. He is our community planning and liaison officer. For a lot of the city officials, he is the face of Naval Base Ventura County, representing the CO. And Kendall and I are heavily engaged in trying to navigate that whole issue, and again to work with the city and the county to try to push back. But again, it's not something that can be done overnight. But our eyes are on that, and we are trying to work that issue.
Having lived in Silver Strand, I don't envy the task at all. Like, where are you going to put all the cars that are there now? There's no place to put them.
I do not have an answer for that. So
Yeah, go for it.
One more comment. I'd like to get your contact information because I wanted to follow up on some issues. Both Council Member McQueen Lejean and I sit on the Regional Defense 21 group.
okay.
And we recently heard a presentation on preparedness on the base and how the base is going to communicate with us locally. So I'd like to talk to you about that. We also met an organization when we went to DC. We visited the Pentagon and some other offices, and one of the offices actually does community affairs. And I'm thinking that might be a, yes, exactly. Are you, do you work with them? Okay. Okay, so, yeah, so the idea of accessing the base for recreational activities, like using the play field. I heard that the Navy bases actually said no to the playing field, but there's some other ideas out there that I'd like to run by you, and maybe through this organization, so similar to what Councilman Gama was speaking about. But if you could leave your contact information, I would appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you so much again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
And I just want to mention, so growing up here in Port Hueneme since I was 5 years old, just from my point of view, it was always just kind of strange knowing that there was a fence within our city. I know the importance of having that fence for the military base, but I just want to let you know how I felt. It was always, again, a strange feeling knowing that there's other kids inside that fence that have a movie theater and we don't. That at the time, when I grew up, their baseball fields were nice. It was always just a really weird feeling for me where I was just like, how is it that we still have some sort like segregation in a way? And one of the things that I always kind of wanted to do was maybe find a way so that kids can go inside and play in the baseball fields, especially because they're not being used right now. I've heard of other cities where they have bases where they've moved the fence lines. Is there any way that something like this can happen in the future?
Okay, so I have to be very careful. I don't want to speak for the CEO on the spot here. My best answer right now is that without making a commitment, I mean, again, we're willing to work with y'all. We're willing to look at all opportunities. Again, our primary concern is security, okay? But I know that at other military installations, they've always, golf courses is a classic example. I'm so jealous of, I think it's Iwakuni. They have a golf course on the base and they have easy access for civilians to go on in there, and that turns out to be a huge money maker for the base, and it supports their MWR to a phenomenal degree. So I would say anything is possible as long as trying to address your desires as to what you'd like to do while making sure that we're protecting our interests. We can always work something out. Okay. With that, yeah, I'd have to defer to the CEO. I don't want to speak for him. Go ahead.
So I'm aware that there appears to be like 57 acres of port business going on the base.
Okay.
And again, when those cars are driven off the base, we don't get revenue for it, but the base gets revenue.
Okay.
And so, again, that's another area where it's like, you got 57 acres of car business going on the base. And, we benefit from port activity, but we don't benefit from that. So I just wanted to bring that up is that, the blending of military and commercial and all the people that have to be cleared and get a CAT card to come on the base and do all that. That's a security big effort that I'm sure causes a lot of headaches out there. But I just bring it up because I think if we open our minds and we try to work together, that we could find an equilibrium so that perhaps those ball fields that are stuffed with weeds right now could be used by our residents and the base kids as well. So yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, appreciate you coming and hope we could have a very
Sure.
meaningful dialogue down the road.
All right. And I guess, you brought up a good point in the sense that, yes, we do have quite a few acres that we do lease out to Clovis for the staging of their vehicles when they come on in. The 2 points I'd like to make is, number one, for us, the military installation, land is king. I mean, if the land is a little bit underutilized right now, the purpose of that land is staging in case there is a world event. I mean, we are the only deep draft port in between Long Beach and San Francisco. And so if world events dictate that cargo ships have to come on in to get heavy equipment quickly to some overseas location, it's Port Hueneme. That this is where everything's going to come on in, get staged, and move off. That's why we do need that land. With regards to the revenue, you are correct, okay? We do get revenue for that. But the Navy is not a profit-making organization. The revenue we get basically goes into maintaining our infrastructure. We have very tight rules that we have to go under. So indirectly, you are benefiting as a taxpayer because if we're able to get some money to keep our water distribution systems active, then that's less money we have to go back from Milcons and the taxpayers to pay for another source. So, and it brings jobs. So, okay.
Cool. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. All right. Have a good day. Evening.
Thank you. All right, we're now going to move on to item number 6, city employee recognition. Deputy City Manager Charles Peretz.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, members of the public. It's that time, once again. It's the next quarter. As the council and the public may recall, last year we began the process of recognizing employees for their years of service at city council meetings. Last year was a catch-up year, so we recognized a number of employees, both those hitting the 5-year incremental mark and those between that had not been recognized. This year is a more traditional year, so in our second year, we're recognizing those celebrating their 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on years of service with the city as of the second quarter of the year. So with that introduction, I'll turn it over to newly introduced Chief Federico to recognize 2 of our longer tenured employees in the police department.
Hello again. Sorry for the noise. Police employees, we tend to be loud. We're working on our inner voice earlier.
Already our first noise complaint.
We talked about it. We're working on our inside voice. First recognition here will be Rocky A. Lopez. Rocky Lopez Jr. Senior Police Officer Rocky Lopez Jr. was hired with the City of Port Hueneme as a reserve police officer on May 21st, 2003, and promoted to police officer on December 8th, 2003. He has worked several assignments, including K-9 handler, field training officer, firearms instructor, range master, taser instructor, arrest control instructor, beat coordinator, special problems unit detective. On August 20th, 2015, Rocky was promoted to senior police officer. 2019, he was assigned to an entire 6-month patrol deployment as an acting sergeant. He's currently assigned to patrol as a senior officer and field training officer for B shift, also known as weekday days. When asked what he likes best about working for the City of Port Hueneme, Rocky answered that he enjoys working for the Port Hueneme Police Department because it's a small department where he has had the opportunity over his 20-year career to develop more personal relationships with his fellow officers as well as with the residents of Port Hueneme. One of Rocky's favorite work moments thus far was being given the opportunity to be a K-9 handler. Training and working with his K-9 partner was one of the best and most rewarding experience he has ever had as a police officer. Please join me in recognizing Senior Officer Rocky Lopez Jr. for 25 years of service for the City of Port Hueneme. Before I left, I sat on the oral boards that hired him. It was me and Ron Burns. And to come back and have him so successful is, yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Another young person who I saw as a kid in our hallways, then eventually grow into the incredible peace officer he is today, is Baltazar Tapia. And I want to recognize him for 25 years of service. Senior Officer Baltazar Tapia was hired with the City of Port Hueneme as Park Enforcement Officer on June 10th, 1998. On December 28th, 1998, he was hired as a police officer trainee, and upon graduating the academy, he was promoted to police officer on June 25th, 1999. Baltazar has several numerous assignments, including field training officer, detective, special problems unit detective, Ventura County Auto Theft Task Force detective, K-9 handler, narcotics detective, and was assigned to the West County Street Team. Baltazar was promoted to senior officer on February 21st, 2011. He's currently assigned to the Investigation Services Division as our acting sergeant, which is a heavy role to take on for all the investigations in the city. When he was asked what he likes best about working for the city of Port Hueneme, Baltazar answered, "Working for the city of Port Hueneme is actually an extension of family. When you think about it, you spend more time with coworkers than your immediate family. That's when you realize it's like having work brothers and work sisters. So you argue, you laugh, and you cry a little bit, but in the end, I know each one would give up their life for me, like he would do in return for them. We know what we signed up for." Baltazar's favorite work moment thus far has been the several moments related to the young officers he has been able to mentor and train and eventually watch to get hired full-time. He's incredibly proud when he sees someone advance in their career, whether it be at Port Hueneme or another police department, knowing where their roots were planted. One of the optional questions for the employee recognition questionnaire reads, "Is there anything personal about you or your family that you would like to share as part of being recognized for your service in the city?" Don't you cry or I'll cry. Don't you cry. He said, "Simply to say, my wife Susie and children Ileana, Isaiah, and Isabella, I can't thank you enough." He says, "I love you for the understanding you have for this job. Getting called out during family functions and missing special moments can never be replaced. But that is why we always make our own on our own time, and he loves you." Please join me in recognizing Senior Officer Baltazar Tapia for 25 years of service to the city of Port Hueneme. And we mentioned the 25 years of service, but when you realize how some of them started as volunteers and stuff even before that, some of them have spent their entire adult life here. And that says a lot about our city, Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That is it for our presentations. We will now move on to the consent calendar, and we will consider consent items on the consent calendar, which will be enacted in one motion unless a council member has a request to remove an item for discussion. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull item 13 for discussion.
I like to pull number 9 and number 10.
Okay. So move to approve 7, 8, 11, and 12.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so the first item for discussion is item number 9, approve the execution of representation agreement with Hollister and Brace. The recommendation is to approve the execution of representation agreement with Hollister and Brace. Are there any questions, discussions?
Yeah, so I think we talked about a couple of them, but I was reading and I just wanted to ask, there's a statement in here that says one of the options would be to consult an independent counsel. So was wondering if the city consulted an independent alternate counsel?
I assume you're meaning prior to giving informed consent?
Yes.
No, they didn't. I was not directed to, but
Okay.
in my opinion, and based on the unity of interest between PHWA and the city as a member agency, as well as Channel Islands Beach Community Services District, we are all in unity of interest, and certainly joint representation would be a benefit in any future litigation.
Okay, great. And I just want to put on the record that I wasn't here in May 2022, so I might have some questions. So bear with me just a minute. And so there's a comment in here about a conflict. And I think we kind of talked about that. If there were any conflict between the three entities, that the PHWA and the city possibly would not be represented, and if that is the case, would the city then have to begin from the beginning with a new firm if we wanted to follow down the path of litigation?
I can respond to that, and Mr. Candy can fill in later. Essentially, the informed written consent agreement, as I understand it, especially from May 16th, 2022, the May 16th, 2022 agreement related to PHWA, and essentially Channel Islands Beach Community Services District requested that in the event that there was an unresolvable conflict, that they would be able to retain Mr. Candy. Obviously, attorney-client privilege would be retained between PHWA and Mr. Candy up until that split. And the problem would be then PHWA would have to find new counsel to substitute in for Mr. Candy, and Mr. Candy would be able to continue with Channel Islands Beach Community Services District. In essence, it's more of a waiver to challenging Mr. Candy's continued representation of the Channel Islands Beach District. This waiver and this representation agreement accomplishes the same thing, except for the city as well as PHWA. The interest is primarily that Mr. Candy worked for the Channel Islands Beach Community Services District prior to either the PHWA or the city, and therefore they have a fairly strong interest in maintaining that relationship with Mr. Candy and his firm.
Great. Those were my questions. Thank you.
So this water agency in California is very complicated and complex. Thus, we're entering into this arrangement so that you could represent the interests of two entities that have basically the same interest in preserving water rights in the region. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And actually, there's three entities, right? So there's the two member, two member agencies of PHWA, the Beach District, the city, and then PHWA itself. So there is a strong commonality of interest. And even though the ethics rules require that I disclose, potential conflicts, disclose potential conflicts, the reality is that given the commonality of interest, I don't see a real conflict, an unresolvable conflict coming up. So I think, a lot of what we're talking about is not fantasy, but just not very likely to actually arise in the real world.
Correct. Really dumb question, and I'm not trying to be offensive or anything, but it just occurred to me, like, when you bill for the month, how does your hourly rate, is it split amongst the parties that you're representing?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So if it's something that's common to the clients that I represent, the three different clients in the matter, for instance, appearing at a court conference, status conference, that sort of thing, then the time would be split evenly, a third between each of the three clients. If it's something that I'm doing individually on behalf of the city, for instance, researching the city's individual water rights, and that would be billed individually.
I got it. And I know a lot of residents in our community received a notice of water rights. And could you possibly explain, like, third grade level, what that's all about?
Sure. The plaintiffs in the lawsuit are required by the court to place everyone, anybody and everyone who owns land that overlies the basin, required to provide them notice of the lawsuit and an opportunity to join in the lawsuit if they wish. So that we saw, residents of the city receiving these notices. Even though these residences, they obtain all their water supply from the city, there's no reason for them to individually participate nevertheless, because they own land that overlies the basin. They were provided notice and they have the opportunity to participate. If they ever wanted to put a groundwater well in their backyard and start pumping groundwater, theoretically they could at significant expense, and there might be other city rules and requirements that prevent them from doing so. But nevertheless, for the adjudication purposes, since they own land overlying the basin, they were provided notice of the lawsuit and are given an opportunity to join if they wish.
Would it be plausible that there could be a well in somebody's backyard that, well, I wouldn't say a backyard, but if we go back 100 years ago, when farming seemed to reach almost all the way to the beach, there could be a scenario where there was a well.
There could be a scenario, yeah. I mean, most likely it's abandoned
Right.
now and not usable, but.
But if the same family owned the land as they would have the water rights to that well if they so chose?
Well, the water rights would exist independent of the well. The well would just be a means by which they would access the water supply.
Okay.
I
Mr.
understand.
Candy, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to stay on topic. So again, the recommendation is to approve the execution of representation agreement with Hollister and Brace. Do we have any questions deciding whether we want to continue or not? No?
Move to approve. Second. Wait, I need to specify the item.
Item number 9.
So move to approve item 9.
I'll second it.
I did already.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, I believe we also pulled item number 10.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Candy. Authorization to purchase water valve exercise and vacuum unit. This was Ms. McQueen, Martha McQueen, LeJohn?
So I see that there's a request to appropriate $1,000 on. And my question was if that is, was part of our.
She's here.
Is that already part of our budget?
So it is. So in our budget, we did budget for this valve turning machine for fiscal year 23-24. Right. So we did budget for 50,000. Unfortunately, the prices came up a little bit higher. So there's an additional $8,000 that will need to be appropriated.
Oh, okay, from
Yes.
your own budget.
Correct.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Thank you. That was my question. Thank you.
You-
Um,
Yes.
Move to approve. Move to approve item 10.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. McQueen LeJohn. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right, now remind me, did we also pull item number 11? I think we, so it was 10 and then 13? Okay, so item number 13, recommendation is rescind the level 2 water supply shortage and adopt a resolution declaring a level 1 water supply shortage pursuant to ordinance number 698.
Just wanted to refresh my memory and also the residents, the action, what the action means to the residents of our city.
Great question. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So what we're doing tonight, the recommendation is to rescind the level 2, go back to level 1. What that means for our residents is the main objective is the watering. So we're going to go from 2 days a week of watering, it'll go to 3 days a week. And those days will be Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So if this does get adopted, all this information will be on the city website tomorrow. And that's a major impact. We're just going from 2 days to 3 days at this time.
Is it fair to say that the city obviously had to abide by level 2 and going to level 1 is going to provide an extra day of watering for our parks and mediums? Well, maybe not the mediums, but definitely our parks.
Right, not the meetings, but the parks will benefit from this. That's correct. And just to add some more information, so the city of Oxnard just went back to level 1 a few weeks ago, and same with the Channel Islands Beach District as well.
Okay, thank you. I think that's real positive, and maybe we could get a Facebook post out there to let residents understand the impact on their residents.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Move to approve item 13.
All in favor? All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right, we're now going to move on to public hearings. Item number 14, levy and collection of the annual assessments for assessment district number 87-1, assessment district number 91-1, and assessment district 95-3, in agreement with the Ventura County Auditor Controller for billing of direct assessments. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publications as required by law?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Will staff please present the report? Deputy Public Works Director Fred Camarillo.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and members of the audience. What you have before you tonight is a series of resolutions that is going to be for the order and of the levying and collection of the assessments, which were heard on June 5th when Council approved the resolutions that was the intent to levy the assessments. So these would actually be the ordering of those assessments. They are for the lighting assessment district, the parkway and median assessment district, and the drainage maintenance assessment district. Also included with that resolution is you would be approving the city manager to go ahead and execute the agreement with the Ventura County Controller Auditor, which then puts into motion the assessment on the tax rolls for the collection of these fees. I covered what these assessments go to, but as a reminder, the lighting is essentially what we use to pay the city street light electrical bills. There's a slight deficit in there because over the years, the electrical costs have continued to go up. But the amount that we can assess hasn't changed. The other for the parkway and median also has a slight deficit in as well. Again, mostly related to the cost of things and maintaining things. And then with the drainage maintenance assessment, the biggest thing that we've been doing lately has been the Bubbling Springs corridor work, which will continue in phases. That can only happen for a few months out of the year. That has a fund balance, and that is projected to be about $380,000 at the end of June 30, 2024. We'll probably continue to have other work that's going to be going on. Some other things that we'll be looking at potentially doing is applying for a spraying permit, which will allow us to try and control the growth in the channel through application of pesticide. That's something that we would have to apply for through a regional permit. There's a lot of work that would have to go into that before we could do that, and that is an option. Some of the things that go along with that also require that there's testing of the water columns and making sure that it's being conducted in a proper manner with the proper chemicals, so we're not causing any harm to the aquatic life. So that's something that we may be moving on forward with that. But for this is requesting your approval so we can submit all of this data with the resolutions to the county, and that way they can put this on the tax rolls and collect this on our behalf. And if you have any questions.
Does council have any questions?
With regards to the assessments you said had a negative or behind, what happens in that regard? We only are allowed to collect a certain amount, but the bill is higher than what it is. So what happens then? Is there a penalty that's assessed, or?
No, the general fund ends up covering
the
the
balance
cost.
of it? Oh, okay.
And as Mr. Spalding mentioned at the last meeting with regard to this, we could potentially decide we would want to go out again to see if we can set a different rate, but that brings into play a lot of other things.
Right. The issue is Prop 218. And so what ends up happening is these assessment districts were formed prior to Prop 218, so they're grandfathered. As long as we don't modify them or amend them, we don't have to follow the Prop 218 process to continue taking the same amounts. There is some danger in attempting to increase the amounts through the Prop 218 process in that if it doesn't pass, we could ultimately lose the districts altogether. Typically, the workaround for this is the creation of what's called an overlay district, which is you create a district on top of your existing assessment districts. You don't modify the pricing for the grandfathered districts, but you create a district in order to make up the difference. And then put that district through the Prop 218 process. And that way, if that district fails, you keep the grandfathered Prop 218 districts. It's complicated.
So if in the special assessment district, I think the mediums are covered, is that correct?
That's a median maintenance assessment
Yeah,
district.
Parkway and medians.
Okay, so if damage begins to show itself as a result from tree root damaging electrical or whatever, would that be a grounds, a reason to consider a new assessment or overlay assessment, or do we just roll it over to the general fund? So I look at those trees and I see that they're extremely old, they're very large, and we had that incident where all the lights were flickering and going crazy during the rainstorm. So I was wondering, is that electrical part of the assessment?
The collection of these fees could be used to fix that. In this case, we are already running more with the maintenance of that than what is collected on its behalf. Certainly, council could decide if it gets to that point to want to do what Mr. Spalding was just explaining, but it would be pricey and
It's a big lift.
then you run the risk of not having it pass.
In the past, when this has been suggested or discussed, the costs of forming such a district outweigh its benefit at the moment. That might change as the economic realities change, but right now it would be a substantial expense to go through the cost of forming an overlay district.
So just a real dumb question, but a tree falls over in the medium, the special assessment is those funds, when they're exhausted, then it just comes to the general fund, or is there an enterprise fund that takes care of that, or
No, it's the general fund.
it's the
that
general
covers that.
fund? Okay.
Are there any more questions? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Camarillo. The public hearing is now open for public input at 8:03 p.m. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
Okay. So I guess public input has concluded. I will now close the public hearing at 8:03. We have before us a recommendation to adopt all three of these resolutions. May I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Okay. Any discussion? I think we're good. Okay, Madam Clerk, can we please take a vote?
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Yes.
and Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. We're moving on to item number 15, resolution adopting the annual appropriations limit for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Will staff please present the report? Finance Director Lupe Acero.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. The appropriations limit that you have in front of you is an annual limit that we need to have get recalculated every year. And basically, it limits the amount of tax revenues that the city can appropriate on an annual basis. And it's adjusted every year. There's an adjustment factor. If I can draw your attention to Exhibit A, is basically the calculation of the GAN appropriations limit for fiscal year 23-24. The limit for last year, or for this fiscal year, 22-23, is 15,572,758. And as I mentioned, that is adjusted every year by the cost of living per capita growth in California, which was 4.44, and that's provided by the Department of Finance, the California Department of Finance. And then there's a population adjustment. In this case, we're using the Ventura County population change, so we are able to use the change that benefits the city the most. This, for Ventura County, it was negative 0.72. And if we were to use Port Hueneme, the population changed negative 1.35%. So it would have decreased the dollar amount just slightly. So we're using the Ventura County percentage change. So the factor is 1.03%. So we basically increased the prior year appropriation by that factor, which provides us the appropriation for fiscal year 23-24 at $16,147,086. And currently, based on the budget that we just approved, or the council approved, the revenues that are based on taxes that we're projecting to receive are $15,391,581. So we're below that limit by $755,000. So we're good from that standpoint, and that's basically the GAN limit calculation. I'll take any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? For Lupe? No?
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that, Lupe. All right, the public hearing is now open for the public input at 8:06 p.m. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
It's too bad. Public input has concluded. I will now close the public hearing, the time being 8:07 p.m. We have before us a recommendation to adopt a resolution entitled "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, establishing the appropriation limit for the fiscal year 2023-24 pursuant to Article." Honestly, my Roman numerals aren't that great. Knowledge.
Oh, come on. You're a numbers guy.
I don't know. You want to tell me?
18. Yeah.
18 or
Or
13?
13.
13B
Yeah.
of the California Constitution. May I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, can we please take a vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Goma,
Yes.
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune,
Yes.
and Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, next, item number 16, adopt the resolution granting special use permit number 12-23 for the Port Hueneme Recreation Department Touch a Truck event. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes.
Will staff please present the report?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Before you this evening is the first special use permit request. This is for Port Hueneme this is on behalf of Port Hueneme Recreation and Community Services Department for a Touch a Truck event, special use permit 12-23. Next slide, please. So the applicant's request is to hold a public event known as Touch a Truck, featuring a display of commercial and industrial utility vehicles within the beach parking lot C. It is approximated that there will be about 25 to 30 display vehicles. As part of the request, there's 4 to 5 food trucks that might be operating at any given event. There's an arts and crafts, children's zoning activity, and music booth station within this event. And it is anticipated that this special use permit request will run for a 5-year term to occur on the first Saturday of October annually, and this would commence in this October 2023 and have an end date of October 2nd, 2027. Next slide, please. So general information, special use permits require basically council approval if they're going to be located within the Hueneme Beach Park area. And this type of request is considered to be exempt under CEQA, subject to sections 15301, 15304E, 15308, and 15323, as the project uses are existing. It is a minor temporary use of the land, and the conditions of approval ensure the protection of the neighboring environment. Next slide, please. The fiscal impact, this event is city-sponsored, and there's also a request for beach parking revenues to be, waived, so there will be no collections for beach parking lots A, B, C, and along Ocean View Drive. The general fund will cover the city costs of the event. Next slide. Strategic plan consistency, so 2 primary pillars. One is optimal levels of service of residents and businesses and safe, secure, and beautiful community. Support the established programs and events that create a strong sense of community pride and connection to our history and our heritage. And the second would be the primary strategic pillar of safe, secure, and beautiful community. This is an initiative to increase levels of emergency preparedness and education by the levels of trucks and education programs offered at this event. Next slide, please. This is the proposed event site area, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Taylor Penny with the Recreations Department to go over the event details.
Good evening, council and city manager and city attorney. So this, if those of you who were here last year remember this, I believe I would say a successful event. It was at the Wainimi Beach, and parking lot C is where, Ocean View Drive is where a majority of the trucks and vehicles were displayed. We had about 22 vehicles that range from construction vehicles to emergency vehicles to USPS, semi-trucks, school buses, any kind of vehicle you can think of. We had it here. We also had some other educational, I added, there's lots of touch-a-trucks you hear around in the area, but this one I made a little different by adding a vehicle passport, so that it kind of forced the kids to go visit at least 10 vehicles and learn about it, and then they got stamped. And then once they filled out their passport or driver's license, they got to go back to the informational booth to get a toy truck to take home, and lots of other souvenirs throughout the event. We had a chalk area. We had face painting. In lieu of a petting zoo, we'll have jolly jumpers and some assortment of food trucks so that there's food and beverages throughout the event. Portable restrooms were available since the main restrooms down by the pier are pretty far from parking lot C. I do ask to, like was mentioned, for there to be the fees waived through parking lot A and B, as well as Ocean View Drive, Surfside Drive, all the way to Ventura Road, as we did last year. We bagged the parking meters for that, so families can come without having to pay for parking. This year I anticipate more vehicles. I already have people coming to the community center asking, are we having the event again? And I said, stay tuned. I hope we will. And I ask for at least the next 5 years to adopt the first Saturday of October be known as Touch a Truck, and hopefully more years to come, but we'll start with 5. Open for any questions.
Can we, are we inviting the youth nonprofits? Because it seems like it's a youthful event, and if we could get all the interested nonprofits to have a booth, I think that would be a wonderful way to connect youth to programs that might be beneficial to their development.
Yes, that's something we can look into. The main objective of the event is touch a truck, like touch a vehicle, learn about these different industry options, so they can learn career options and stuff. But definitely having other youth organizations would be a good idea. So thank you.
I was really impressed with it last year. You did a phenomenal job, and what surprised me was the enthusiasm that the kids had, and their parents too. I remember hearing a father explain to his son this is the kind of truck I work on, and this is what I do. It was just fascinating to see the buzz. I mean, it was so incredible. So I'm really glad to see this coming for 5 years, and just keep building it bigger and bigger. Who knows? It could be huge.
Yeah, last year we had about 1,700 people in attendance, so I anticipate that to grow for the years to come.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, both of you, staff, for presenting this. I had a question regarding the fees. You said that you were going to request a waiver of the fees, but I didn't see anything in the report or the resolution. Does that happen through another process?
We're talking about the parking
The
fees.
parking
actually.
fees? So we don't have to get permission to do
I
that?
think that's in the conditions of approval.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Gama was talking in my ear. I'm
I
sorry.
believe, and Jose could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's in the conditions of approval. Yeah, typically they are.
Okay.
When we do that, so we
Okay.
don't have to go back through a separate process.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, Ms. Penny, you touched on an area that I had a question about is the educational aspect. For each one of these, where there'll be somebody talking about career paths and how a child could get into something like that if they had an interest in learning more or getting into that field, where there'll be that type of educational aspect?
Yes, so along with all the trucks came the truck driver or the crane operator or the policeman or woman. We partnered with other city agencies. We had Oxnard PD out, we had Santa Paula PD, we had the port had sent a contact they use for a crane, and they were all there kind of explaining how to operate the machinery on the truck or vehicle, talking about the career. I mean, I saw almost every kid on the police bicycle. I personally never been in a semi, and that was pretty cool to see the back, like living quarters. And I don't know if the parents enjoyed the school bus more or the kids. So it kind of opens up the door for kids to think about career opportunities. You know, college may not be for everyone, and all those career fields don't require a college education. So I think it's great to have them have that exposure at a young age here in our backyard.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for the presentation. I saw pictures of the last event and wish I would have been there. I have nieces and nephews that I know would have enjoyed it, but I'm so looking forward to it this year and possibly the next 4 years after that. So the one question that I have is, so it talks about revenue. The only revenue loss would be the parking. There's some talk about staff supporting. Is that, and it's on a weekend, so that would be additional funding. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that does require additional funding. Their staff, last year it required all of us in recreation to, it was all hands on deck. We borrowed some lifeguards since it's the end of lifeguard season. There was availability to kind of pull some of them to assist. We also were thankful for Public Works. At the time, they helped us with the labor of setting up tables and chairs for the eating area. So it does tap into some city resources, and it is on a Saturday, but I believe that will be budgeted and come out of the general fund.
Sure. Thank you. And I had another question, and it just, on the screen here, the event site plan. I was just wondering about your parking lot, which would be B.
Yeah, so parking lot B is the first parking lot that would potentially be filled up. And then A and B, part of the ask is to ensure that there's no parking fee so that families can come and go within those parking, as well as along Surfside Drive up to Ventura Road. Everything past Ventura Road towards the port would still be paid parking as it was last year.
Great, that answered my question, because I wondered how folks would get in this parking lot if it was going to be closed at Surfside.
Yeah, it's closed right at the pavilion. We put barricades up, so only vehicles that are part of the Touch a Truck event come past the Surfside and Ocean View.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Taylor, I just want to say that you and your department did a really great job. I felt like a little kid when I was at the event. Honestly, I think I turned into a little kid, but it was fun and I loved it. So
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Can I just, while we're on this topic, can I just ask one question. What would be helpful for me, I don't know about the other council members, but when we have presentations, since parking is a revenue, when we have presentations that say it'll be a revenue loss, for me, it would be helpful if there was at least a estimate value of what the loss is, so we understand that across the different events.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, the public hearing is now open for public input at 8:20 p.m. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comment.
Okay. Public input has concluded. I will now close the public hearing. The time is now 8:20 p.m. We have before us a recommendation to adopt a resolution approving a special use permit number 12-23 Fort Wayne Recreation Touch a Truck event and take such additional related action that may be desirable. Are there any motions?
Move to approve?
Second?
Okay. Can we please take a vote?
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune.
Yes.
Councilmember Gama.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Yes.
And Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
We're now moving on to the last item. Item number 17, adopt a resolution granting special use permit number 16-23 for the City of Fort Wayne Fun Run event with food trucks, vendors, and entertainment. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law?
Yes.
Will staff please present the report?
Hello, once again. Good evening. Up before you is consideration of the Wainimi Fun Run. This is special use permit 16-23. Next slide, please.
Clicker right there.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you, Curtis. Applicant's request, this is to hold a public event known as Wainimi Fun Run. This will feature the display of running, beach, volleyball, basketball, and soccer sporting competition. The event is to occur on Sunday, July 16th from 7 a.m. to mid-afternoon. As part of the request, in the event, there's food truck vendors, a Jolly Jumper area, and an outdoor DJ at the site. General information, the special use permit. A special use permit is required due to the event being held at the Wainimi Beach Park. Subsequently, there will also be areas used from Bubbling Springs Recreational Greenbelt, and the event will end at Miranda Park. Once again, this event is considered to be exempt under CEQA due to the project uses being existing, and this type of use is minor and temporary to the land. The conditions of approval also ensure the protection of the environment. Fiscal impact, this is a city-sponsored event. Beach parking revenues will not be collected for beach parking lots B and along Surfside Drive and Market Street. The general fund will cover costs for city staffing of the event. Strategic plan consistency, optimize levels of service for residents and businesses, support and establish programs and events that create a strong sense of community pride and a connection to our history and heritage. Here is the site plan.
Can I actually show the other presentation?
Sure.
And then, can I go explain? Yeah? Oh, from here? This is, okay.
Just say next slide.
Oh, okay. All right, so I did make a presentation for the Wainimi Fun Run, just so people know it was an idea that I had a couple years ago. Next slide. What is the Wainimi Fun Run? It's basically a decathlon. There's gonna be volleyball, basketball, and soccer, and in order to advance to the next section, you have to complete an activity. They're not necessarily that difficult. It's intended so that kids can also complete them. You do a volleyball serve, a 3-point basket, and a soccer goal to complete the entire fun run. Next slide. There's the idea of having music, some jumpers, and all of this is hopefully going to be sponsored by local events. Local businesses, and this is going to be a way to encourage community engagement and healthy competition. Next slide. Have at least 3 food trucks, a dessert truck, so at least people can eat something while they're there, and also invite local nonprofits to set up and talk about their organizations, and have some face painting and other free activities for kids. Next slide. Another idea that was thought of was to incorporate some rock painting, and I'm asking to host an event at the community center a week before the event, where people come in and paint rocks that get donated to the event, and then they basically get distributed through the path. People can pick them up. This was an idea that was thought of in one of my camping trips, when I found somebody leaving all these rocks along this trail, which encouraged people, and I saw it. People were going out looking for these rocks. So it's an idea to bring people to the event. And I want to encourage people not just to run individually, but also run as pairs, as family member, as a family, and as a business, as an organization, and as city employees. So there's going to be different categories for the winners. So let's just say you're a family and you have a child, and the child wants to run, but they're a little timid. You would run with the child and encourage the child and help the child at every single one of those stations. So only one person from the family has to complete the task in order to advance. After the awards, people can participate in some of the family activities. I'm coordinating to have somebody run a softball game. People would be playing soccer, and then I would be running a 3-point contest at the same time. So basically, people can show up and say, hey, I want to go play baseball or softball or tennis or pickleball or soccer or basketball, and just kind of showcasing all the different sports that we have here in our city, or at least in Miranda Park. Next slide, please. This is the overall course, starting all the way down at Six Flags at Wainimi Beach. And then the first station is at the volleyball courts next to the pier. Once you make your serve, you're gonna continue on the path. We would have to temporarily close Surfside Drive. It would not affect any of the residents, because it would just, they would still be able to come in and go out of their houses. It would just be that one crosswalk. And then they'd make it to the basketball courts where they'd hit a 3-pointer. I'm expecting Martha McQueen LeJohn to participate, and at least in the 3-point contest. And then the last would be to score a goal. And so if you miss any of them, you will have to take turns, and then you'd go and so it is a competition. Just seeing. No, you don't have to go to yeah, you will definitely not have to go back to the beginning. Next slide. I'm thinking we're gonna start setting up like at 7 a.m., but participants can check in at 7:30. And then I'm thinking that there's gonna be a race that starts every 30 minutes after 8 a.m. And so there's gonna be different waves of people going. So if you don't want to show up at 8, you can show up at 9. The last one is gonna end at 10:30. So you have between 8 and 10:30 to get going on the race. Where you see these police explorers, I'm suggesting we at least have a police cadet explorer at these stations, so that they can direct traffic, just in case if there's any confusion. I think for the most part it's self-explanatory, and there's also a plan to make a video so everybody understands what they have to do. Next slide. After you make the serve, which the first section to the volleyball courts is half a mile exactly. I used Google Maps to track the distance. And then the next stage is actually at Miranda Park. But in this slide, I just wanted to showcase the fact that we're gonna have to close the road temporarily for probably at most 4 hours. That's another half a mile. So the second run is a little bit more than the first run. The first one's half a mile. The second one's almost a little bit more than a mile. So next slide. And then this is basically the ending. It's gonna look something around something like this. But yeah, you would complete the contest by scoring a goal, and then the entire run is actually only 1.5 miles. So there's no reason why anybody cannot do this event. You can walk it, which I think would also be fun too, encouraging people to just walk. It doesn't necessarily have to be a run. Next slide. Um, it can change, but the idea is to have some food trucks not take over the parking lot. I think there's plenty of parking, and Tony Stewart has suggested to not have parking enforced at the beach so people can also park at the beach. And so I think former Mayor Rollins also wants to do some pickleball training and coaching. So I think we can get a lot of these sports going, and if it's successful, I have a ton of ideas for next year. Maybe we can end at maybe not next year, but at one point end at Bubbling Springs Park, which would make the fun run a little bit further, and maybe showcase our Bubbling Springs Park once it's actually done. But there's a lot of different things that we can do in the city in terms of doing a fun run. Next slide. This is a little bit of the agenda. There's a lot of wiggle room. I'd like to work with staff. And this is why we're having this discussion. If approved today, then staff can then also start working on it. I know it's a short turnaround. But as I might remind you, next slide.
The 26th or
Oh, it's the 16th. Yeah, no, I noticed that. I don't know why it said that, but that's my bad. Actually, can I go back to the last slide? So go 2 slides forward. Not that long ago, on April 31st, I hosted an event at the beach. We called it the Music and Literature event, and I did the marketing like last minute. And I still considered it a very successful event. I'm hoping, I know this is also a short turnaround. We only have about 3.5 weeks for the event, but I think I can get a lot done. At least me helping out staff, because I'm on vacation right now. So I think I can get a lot done. I've already contacted some of the local businesses, and they say they'd be happy to volunteer, not just their time, but also with some of the activities that they would provide. So I just want to let you guys know that while I might not have a ton of experience, I'm not going to be doing it alone this time. Hopefully with staff. It is a city event. I did have Javier Gomez helping me at that last event. And I did also have the Port co-sponsor the event. So maybe the Port might be also interested in co-sponsoring this event and maybe having other businesses involved, so that it's not all the costs would be on us. In terms of costs, Curtis, can you go back 1 slide? These are the only costs that I can really think of that we might need. Some prices for completing the race. An idea would be some custom magnets. 200 of these would cost about $161. Some ribbons for the first place or medals. I'm willing to take any advice or comments from council. I think this is a city event. It's not my event. It's just my idea. And I would love to see all of us participate, just like how all of you were at the Music and Literature event. And I appreciate all of you for being there. And then the only other expense that I can think of would be tags for the runners. So we would be keeping track of the individual runners and then the group runners too. So there'd be 2 people at each station keeping track of whether you're an individual runner or a family runner. All the family members would have the same number, and they'd have a different color too. So we would know whether they're a group or an individual. And so that's pretty much it for the presentation. I know it's last minute. I know it's kind of hard to get things on the agenda. I want to thank Tony Stewart for putting it on the agenda. I was hoping it would get it a little bit sooner, but this is more than enough time to get this event done. And I think it might be a start of a beautiful event, just like how we have the Touch a Truck event and the Wainimi Beach Festival. If it continues to grow, this might also be an annual thing, just like how the Music and Literature event is something that I would want to do again next year. People are already giving me ideas for that event, but that won't be till April of next year.
I have a question.
Yes?
How do people register to participate?
People are going to register to participate through a Google form, just like how we did for the sister cities. Right now we have over 11, and last time I checked, which was last week, we have over 11 response for the sister city.
So the Google form, will that be available on the city's website? And then who collects them and compiles them? And
That would be
coordinates all
stuff that I
that.
would be coordinating with the staff. I don't want to put any more work on them. I think I'm gonna take on most of the work. But this is just something so that they can at least help me out. But yeah.
I heard you say that you thought about this a couple of years ago. Was this budgeted for in the Department Rec and Parks budget?
No, it was not budgeted.
Because I see that there's a lot of logistics involved. You've got explorers, you're gonna close the streets, you got different venues. I see some additional in-house costs involved here. So one of the things, kind of along the lines what you were saying about the parking revenue, I think in the future, when we do these kinds of programs and we involve staff, I'd like to see a budget. I'd like to see a budget associated with these kinds of programs, so we know what our actual costs are. What are the staff costs? What are we losing out on terms of parking? What are costs of supplies, costs of putting out, the traffic control measures, all of those, I think. So we get a realistic view of what's involved.
The truth is, I don't think we know the true cost, but it's gonna be very minimal. It's not gonna be anything in the aspect of like the 75th celebration or the Wainimi Beach Festival. This is something that's meant to be low cost. Like even the rocks for the painting, I bought the rocks myself.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about staff time, and police time, Park and Rec's time. So, if there's a way in the future we can capture that, we can see what the true impact is on.
I had spoken to Tony Stewart, and the idea would be that there'd be a lot of volunteer work.
Correct.
Could you talk a little bit on that, please?
Well, again, we have had that discussion, and again, the discussion was that the staff input would be minimal. Right now, Chief Federico is looking at the Explorer costing. But as far as, again, and I've mentioned to our mayor that, for instance, our Parks and Rec staff, they're already really booked. And so this type of event will rely primarily on volunteers. As far as, basically having support donations to pay for hopefully these certificates even and whatnot. I'm going to rely on the mayor to help us push out the event itself. Again, because staffing is tight already on many of the summer events that we're having. There will be, again, an impact with regard to parking in Lot B and along the street for that day. But again, it is a community event, and so we've done that in the past for that. But again, staffing should be minimal, with the exception of putting up the barricades, getting them down, and having the explorers assist.
That's good to know because I heard Ms. Basua loud and clear at our budget meeting, and I've heard Anna Hanley's also begging us to be considerate of the use of their time. So I just want to make sure we're not overtaxing them after they've pleaded with us to give them space to work on the grant. So thank you.
I've been trying to rack my brain for a uniquely Wainimi event, and I think, Mayor, you've come up with it. And I think that getting this, the first one is always going to be low participation, but I think we're going to get good participation because this is something that is very attractive to families, and I think and I'll be willing to volunteer all I can to help you. I'll be willing to hit the streets and get donations, and I think our goal should be to try to make it a zero cost to the city, but a big benefit to the youth and the families of our city. Again, I see this as becoming a uniquely Wainimi event, and down the road, I could see adding surfing, boogie boarding, other things. I would like to maybe even have a rock painting contest. In other words, where we could declare a winner. And yeah, because I know how to paint footprints on the sand, and I do this for people that are friends of mine. So, oh, I gave you one. That's
And
right.
then I have an example of what some of the rocks will look like. I already started painting them as many as I can. I don't know if people want to check it out.
It's cute.
No, I learned how to do the footprints on the sand walking on the ocean, which I can't wait to start working on, now that we're doing this. So anyways, I believe we could do this with a zero cost to the city, particularly initially, but I also believe that this, and with the other literature reading at the beach, I think these are uniquely Hueneme events, and I think that they're super important to our community. And I am so thankful that you came up with this concept, because again, we're creating something that I don't think anyone's done that I know of. And so yeah, I think all of us hopefully can work together as a council, and I embrace this idea, and I'm enthusiastically looking forward to how we could get it off the ground. And yes, short notice, but that even makes it more fun.
Yes, just one question. One of the stops, the last stop, looks like it's the soccer, and it's going to be on the tennis court. Can you tell us about what the plan is for that? We've had some discussion, but I don't
so
think
that
we've
would
settled on
be
anything.
a 1 day event. So tennis, I don't want the tennis community to freak out. It's not expected to last a week, but it's a way to showcase that maybe there are people in the city, or at least in our local neighborhoods, that would want to have soccer, indoor soccer, at Miranda Park or at any of our parks.
I can tell you there are a number of kids that come and play soccer on the tennis courts, and it's the most funny thing to watch, but they have a great time. So it's already happening.
Gabby Basul, she's the one that was helping me with this, but basically put padding on the poles, take down the nets, and then I already have soccer courts that we would be putting up some goals, and so they can play soccer there. And it's really only meant for one of the tennis courts. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I'll go ahead and announce that I am now a pickleball player. So I was out playing pickleball. So it really gave me a perspective of how the actual courts are set up. And so what I did realize that there are 2 tennis courts in one gated area. So if you use one for soccer, if there's not a barrier between the other, you're really using both that entire space.
I still need to talk to staff, Gabby and Tony, but we might have to use both so that there's no conflict, any problems between both sports.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I said that for this situation, and as we move forward, that is what is. But anyway, I'm kind of sore, so I'll turn it back over to you.
I know Councilmember Gomez said that this is unique. I do think it's unique. It's creative. There are other ideas to maybe have the event be specifically on the beach, where there's a center start and you run to different ends to the beach, complete different tasks, and then come back to the center. There's another idea of, like I had mentioned, ending at our new Bubbling Springs Park. Next year, to be honest, I would want to do something at Boker Park. Because I think that area is a little neglected. It would just be kind of difficult to do a fun run that's a long run. It might be more short runs, but I'm open to ideas and for council input and help, and anything that you guys want to contribute. We'd be more than happy to accept.
And one final statement. I think it's a great idea. I'm looking forward to it myself. But like Councilmember Hernandez mentioned, we really have to be able to reach out to all of our community and let them know this is going on. We have so many people that keep missing things, and we want them to be able to participate. So,
well, one of the reasons why I wanted this special use permit is because at my last event, we were even having problems in terms of, like, is the city gonna be able to help me print out some of the flyers? And so this is why I wanted it to be a city event, so that maybe we could at least get some more help in it, just not just be me getting all the marketing done. But I hope you guys can see that I do care about this community, and I want to bring a lot of fun events, just like how we've been doing. My goal is eventually to have an event every single month, and bring people to our city. We already have a lot of events, and it's almost filling up. Even just with the Touch a Truck event, that's an amazing. The 75th, maybe we can have a parade every year for our year anniversary. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas, but it'd be nice to continue having events and maybe have Hueneme be known for different creative events. It's an idea, of course. Yeah, I'll have you do that part since I was one of the presenters.
Council have any further questions for staff? Oops. Does council have any further questions for staff? So I'll now open the public hearing and take public comments. The public hearing is now open for public input at 8:45 p.m. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
I will close the public hearing. Public input has concluded. I will now close the public hearing, the time being 8:45 p.m. We have before us a recommendation to adopt a resolution approving special use permit number 16-23, Wainimi Fun Run, and take such additional related action that may be desirable. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, will you please take a roll call?
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Yes.
and Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Perez. I think we still have one more business item. Yeah, so item number 18, recommendation of Chandler Asset Management, Inc. for investment advisory services. Will staff please present the report?
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The recommendation before you is to approve Chandler Asset Management Advisory Services to provide asset management and advisory services for the city for a portion of the portfolio, the liquid portfolio. Staff issued an RFP on April 18th for advisory services. We received 10 responses. We went through all of those responses independently and scored them, and we selected Chandler based on their qualifications, their experience, specifically experience with other cities and other neighboring cities, and also their investment approach and their price. But price wasn't like the number one priority, it was really their investment approach. I have on Zoom, via Zoom, Mia Corral Brown, who is the regional director for Chandler, who has a short presentation about the services, and then after her presentation, both of us will be available for questions.
Hi, good evening, honorary mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, and staff. If it's all right with you, I'd like to go ahead and share my screen. Is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to go through a very short slide deck of about 6 or 7 slides, just to share a little background about Chandler Asset Management, who we are, and how we came to be. Now, we were found, well, first let me start by introducing myself to you. I'm Mia Corral Brown. I'm a regional director at Chandler Asset Management. This summer, I will be celebrating my 19th year at Chandler and have over 27 years of experience working with institutional and public entity type of clients in managing and servicing their investment programs. As regional director, if the city approves an engagement with Chandler, I will work very closely with your investment staff to onboard the engagement and then to coordinate the investment process with our professional investment staff. Now, a little bit about Chandler. We were founded in 1988 by our former chairwoman of the board, Kate Chandler, who really began her career sitting on the same side of the desk as each of you, if you will, serving as an investment officer first for the County of San Diego, followed then by the City of San Diego. And Kay was often called upon to share her expertise to provide training to organizations such as the Government Finance Officers Association and the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers. And one of the key observations Kay had over 35 years ago was that public entities, whether they were large or small, often did not have adequate resources, whether they were technology, certainly staff time, or the resources to effectively manage investment programs in-house. And so with that, she set out to open her own firm, and here we are today, managing, and we've grown since the printing of this in March 31, 2023. We've grown to almost $33.0 billion in assets for clients who share very similar objectives to that of the city of Point Wayne for safety, liquidity, and return. We are fixed income specialists, and we share your fiduciary duty, always looking out for your best interests first. We do not have any ties to brokerage, banking, or financial advisory services, and provide investment management services to many of our clients in the Ventura County region. We provide customized investment programs where the city is able to have direct access to their investment team members and their client service as well. And we do so managing portfolios with a stable team of investment professionals who have decades of experience. Each of our portfolio managers has earned their Chartered Financial Analyst designation, which really demonstrates their ability, dedication, and ethics to effectively managing fixed income portfolios on behalf of public entities. To share a little bit with you about our experience, this is just a sample listing of some of your neighbors and peers for whom we provide a very similar scope of service, managing core and liquidity investment programs. You'll see under the county's area that we serve as the advisor for the Ventura County Investment Pool, working with the county and their investment staff on structure, credit quality, and investment thoughts and ideas. We also have provided for almost 3 decades investment management services to your neighbors in Camarillo. We work closely with a very small agency, Agoura Hills, as well as the city of Santa Paula, who engaged Chandler about 2 years ago, as well as a Callegas Municipal Water District, which is located not too far away in Ventura County. But we also work with cities as large as Beverly Hills or the city of Long Beach. And this really demonstrates our ability to carry out a very similar scope of services, again, working to preserve capital, provide liquidity when needed, and optimize those liquid funds to help earn additional income and help the city to bring in that additional income into your investment program. What we do is we provide discretionary portfolio management, and we work with staff to really understand your goals and objectives for your investment program. And then we work alongside you to create appropriate investment benchmarks so that you have targets for returns. We provide very in-depth credit analysis of those positions in your portfolio. And all of this is done in compliance with not only the California Government State Code, but with the city's investment policy. And we begin each engagement by reviewing that investment policy and working with you and your staff to bring your investment policy up to date, to incorporate all of the best practices that are available to you for the California Government State Code. We can also work with Lupe and the investment staff to not only bring that policy in alignment with CMTA, but to earn that certification, which I believe would be a really nice award for the city to seek out, so that you can be recognized by the California Municipal Treasurers Association. So we'll work with you to develop a cash flow analysis so that you have the appropriate levels of liquidity as well as reserve portfolios invested. And we schedule quarterly calls to keep you apprised of your investments, as well as to share with you those updates on the current market conditions. We provide staff training, education, newsletters, and economic updates. In fact, on the 29th, we are inviting our clients, prospective clients and friends to attend a webinar where our investment team will be providing a regional update. Continuing education information, so we are authorized to provide those. So we reconcile your holdings with with your third party custodian. So we never take possession of your assets. So you will need to engage a third party custodian bank. That usually is a U.S. Bank, Bank of New York, or even sometimes banks as large as State Street. And then to provide complete transparency, we provide monthly, quarterly, and annual reports, all in accordance with GASB. And then all of the information about your portfolio is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via our very secure Chandler online portal. Moving ahead at Chandler, we really think of the investment process as being very risk controlled. And so we think of portfolio management as risk control. So a very disciplined process that has worked very effectively to really generate additional income for our clients, as well as manage the risk in the environment that you're investing in, and most importantly, to protect your principal at all times. So you might be wondering what a portfolio at Chandler might look like. And for a client like the city of Port Hueneme, I'd like to direct your attention to a limited maturity strategy, which is buy and hold, extremely conservative. These are all fixed income securities between 0 and 5 years, with a final maturity of about a little less than 2 years. And the current yield to maturity for an investment is about 4.46%. So when you're thinking about your current investment program, you're currently invested in investment pools such as Ventura County Investment Pool and or LAIF, and you're earning about 3% in these investment vehicles. You have an opportunity today in looking at the yield curve to earn approximately 5% or 2% outside of those investment pools. So if you're thinking about investing $20 or $30 million with a firm like Chandler, what you would be doing is adding for a $20 million portfolio approximately $400,000, or if it was a $30 million portfolio, $600,000 of additional income by just purchasing U.S. Treasuries, which are guaranteed fully by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. The overall credit quality is extremely high. It's AA+, and you can see that your average coupon is 1.8%. Sector allocation, again, very active. U.S. federal agencies, some high-quality corporate names, asset-backed securities, and supranationals. This is a buy-hold strategy. It provides very predictable liquidity, and I think would be a really nice fit for the city of Port Hueneme when you're thinking about optimizing additional funds. Again, we discussed reporting, and we want you to know that all of the information about your investments will be available to you. If you look at the graphic on the bottom of the right-hand page here, you'll see a very small snapshot of a portfolio summary. We essentially call this a management summary, and what it does is it provides all of the information that you would need as decision makers right in front of you at all times. So you'd see your portfolio characteristics, your yield to maturity, your beginning and ending market values, as well as the top 10 issuers in your portfolio. You'd see how your portfolio is invested by sector. Again, that means how it's invested amongst treasury, agencies, and corporates. And then your maturity distribution. So you can see how you're invested along the yield curve between 0 and 5 years. And credit quality is there on the right-hand side, followed by your performance against your selected benchmark, which would very likely be the Bank of America ICE 1 to 3 year benchmark. Very conservative, followed by all of the holdings and the reconciliation slides and information that your accountant or accounting team would require in order to book your journal entries. If you were to go ahead and approve investing with Chandler, I've provided a very short and concise sample transition timeline, but you have the ability to get started by executing an agreement with our firm, completing new account documents kind of within the first week. We would then sit down with Lupe and our investment team members to create some investment recommendations, again, understand the goals and objectives of the city, and then work with you to update the city's investment policy. And then by week 2 to 4, we would be working with you through your third-party custodian to invest funds on your behalf. That concludes my very brief presentation. I'd like to open it up to questions should you have any.
Thank you, Mia Corral Brown, for the presentation. Do we have any questions for her? Yes, Councilmember Gama.
Thank you for your presentation. And I do understand that municipalities have rules that allow us to invest in the most conservative means. And I think most of our excess funds are tied up with the county treasury, except for our retirement trust fund. So just to be clear, so if your services are engaged, they will not, or will they be associated with our retiree benefit trust?
No.
Okay.
The intent is to invest funds that the city right now currently has with Wells Fargo. So we're not intending, at the moment at least, to even transfer anything from LAIF or Ventura County Investment Pool. We have a little bit over 40 million, in Wells Fargo. And so that is the intent, is to pull funds from that account.
So the intent is to realize higher earnings through extremely conservative, safe. This isn't going into the open stock market, buying derivatives and doing all kinds of crazy stuff
No,
that got
not at all.
other cities in trouble, correct?
No.
That is correct. So we adhere to the California Government State Code. And quite frankly, Kay Chandler, our founder, helped to create, along with the State Treasurer's Office, and write the California Government State Code. This happened following the Orange County bond scandal in the 90s. So you're essentially, as a municipality for operating funds, only allowed to invest in high quality fixed income portfolios rated A or better that are extremely conservative. Again, treasuries, agencies, some high quality corporate names like Apple or potentially Walmart, but names that are very conservative, that will add value, but will most importantly protect the city's principal.
Yeah, and I think about some of the major financial scandals of the last 20 years, and I just want to seek reassurances from you that yes, this is it is what it is, and I think of Bernie Madoff, for example. The guy was widely respected and held in very high esteem amongst Wall Street and everywhere, and that allowed him to pull off the scam that he pulled off. And so again, I'm just what assurances can you give us to satisfy our need to feel confident that we're doing good?
Councilman, that is a very solid point that you made. So the California Government State Code also requires a public entity to put all of their assets, their money, if you will, into a third-party custodian bank. And so Chandler is only provided with the authorization to trade on those assets on your behalf. So we never take possession of your assets. The biggest misstep, if you will, with that Bernie Madoff scandal and so many of those scandals that we've heard about over time, were that folks inherently gave their money to those individuals. But we never take possession of your assets, and we're only provided with the authority to trade on your behalf. We have systems in place. We utilize PAM for reporting, but we reconcile on a daily basis with your third-party custodian bank, which will be a very large, reputable organization. And then we report compliance to you on a monthly basis with your monthly reporting package with California Government State Code, and it will completely align with that of your third-party custody bank. So you have those reassurances in place on paper and via our contract.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you, Ms. Brown, for your presentation. I have a question regarding social responsibility, social accountability, and investing, and how can we ensure that we're not investing in companies that are violating child labor laws or human rights violations or practicing unfair labor practices? Is there a
Well,
way?
there certainly are socially responsible investing elements to our investment program that's been put together. First and foremost, you know, it's always our goal to invest in companies that are very high quality because we understand the fact that these are public funds and a lot of the income that's generated will go to fire stations or will go to programs for education for the youth in the community. And so we're going to be investing in very high quality names. And we have this kind of mantra, if you will. We do not invest in sin stocks. So you're not going to see any alcohol, tobacco, or direct firearm names in your portfolio. And quite frankly, so many of those names do not even qualify per the California government state code. Again, it's very, very conservative. If you wanted to prohibit a certain, maybe fossil fuels, for example, you have the ability to do so. But again, these are very high quality, very above bar types of organizations. And certainly if there was someone in the news that was high quality, such as Apple, or another name where they were utilizing child labor, and we found out about that, that would be a bond that we could either hold to maturity or sell out of at Lupe and or the governing body's discretion.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
All right, so we have no more questions. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Are there any
Thank you.
public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
All right, so the recommendation is to select Chandler Asset Management, Inc. for investment advisory and portfolio management services for an initial 5-year term and authorize the interim city manager to execute a contract subject to review and approval of the city attorney. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, may we take a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for your presentation.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good evening. City manager comments and reports.
Just very short. Reminder that the next Copacabana Beach Soccer tournament is this Saturday, June 24th from 9 to 3. And then the last event of their year will be on Saturday, July 15th. So just giving you those dates. And then again, just a reminder about Chief swearing in this Thursday out front at 2 p.m. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Council member reports and comments. Councilmember McQueen Lejeune. If not, let's go with Councilmember McConnell.
Okay. Mic on. I'm on the wrong page. So Wainimi Beach cleanup is, so excited. We're moving into our 8th year. Every week we get great participation. And it's turning out to be something that's near and dear to my heart. And when people come out for the first time, they really comment on how clean Wainimi Beach is. And I can attest, I don't know how many hundreds, probably thousands of buckets of trash that we removed from Wainimi Beach. And we also cross over the border and work in the Ormond Lagoon area. And I got contacted by Amgen, and they're planning on sending over 100 people to come to Wainimi Beach and do their own thing. I encourage them to pick a day that could be theirs, and that I'll support them 100%. And so we're really excited about that. I wanted to just bring up the field over there at the entrance to the port. It just seems to be growing. It's looking like a like a dump. I mean, dirt piles are being dumped out there, and I've been noticing recently that there's a lot of kids on these electric bikes that are turning it into a motocross venue. And again, we talked about these electric bikes, and you know, I'm seeing more and more of them everywhere. I saw a large group of them in Ventura, and you watch these. They're basically electric motorcycles, and so I don't know what we can do as a city, but we have a city-owned property that is being turned into a motocross track. So we may want to address that. I want to give props to Jason Johnson. Today, when I was leaving work from the port, I was coming down Surfside Drive like I always do, and I was so pleased to see Jason Johnson conducting a CPR training class on the beach under a canopy with the lifeguards and the mannequins, and it was such an appropriate use for that spot. And you know, I think we could do more of that. And hats off to him for thinking outside the box. And if there's not room at the community center, go down to the beach and set up your own little shade canopy and do your CPR training. So really appreciate that from him. I learned something. Y'all are probably familiar with the La Janelle over there at Silver Strand Beach, and I made some friends of mine aware of it, and he's been taking his son down there, and they've been researching the history of the La Janelle, and the history of the La Janelle is so crazy positive, and that ship has been involved in World War II. That ship used to also be called the Armist Castle, and there was another ship on fire, and it came upon that ship and rescued like 100 people from it. And then to know that that ship was permanently grounded on Silver Strand Beach and is there today, and you could go view it, and it's pretty fascinating to learn about it. And so the artist that wrote the song about the Edmund Fitzgerald, he also wrote a song about this Armist Castle, and it's pretty interesting. So I learned that, and that's it.
Councilmember Martha McQueen Lejeune.
Thank you. So I participated in my normal monthly meetings. One announcement I'd like to make is from GCTD. They'll be hosting a ceremony next week for the new services, their Go Now services, which is an on-demand, kind of like an Uber type shared ride service. And so you could actually go to gopostransit.org or gctd.org, find out more information on the services that they offer. The Go Now is starting in the South Oxnard area, but there are so many services out there at GCTD that folks can look out and see what they have on the site. So I was able to attend the Juneteenth celebration. I'll let our Mayor Pro Tem talk a little bit more about that, but was able to be there. It was really nice ceremony or event. The weather was beautiful, and then on Sunday it went away. So it was really nice. Had a really great break in the weather. Let's see. Last week or week before last, after the council meeting, I was able to attend, and Mayor, you were there also, the World Oceans Day hosted by the port. Really good, very good information. Learned a lot. A couple of the things that they talked about was the pathway to ocean health at a panel, attracting attention and education panel. Then, of course, we had the keynote speaker, who was the California State Treasurer, Fiona Ma. She was the keynote speaker. That was nice. And then there was a panel which talked about technology in the sea. And I don't think a lot of people think about technology when they think about the ocean, but very good panel. And they talked about some ocean landscape. So it was really good. I attended last council meeting from Huntington Beach. I attended the newly elected officials academy, and based on all the information that I received, and it was an awful lot, it was very good. I think the three things that resonated with me that I have continued to think about is the importance of the council and staff partnership. That it's the same destination, but in 2 lanes. Same destination in 2 lanes. The next one is the importance of understanding our top 5 priorities. So if someone was to ask me what the city's top priorities were, I don't think that I could tell them. And so I think that's important to get to that. And the third one is from campaign to governance. So we've all campaigned to be elected. We're here. We're no longer campaigning. Now our job is governance. So what are we doing now for the city? And so that was it. Had an opportunity to attend the Ventura County annual Pride Raising Ceremony, which was good. And as I mentioned earlier, I started playing pickleball yesterday, so I got an opportunity to play on the courts in Miranda Park, which I had not done before any sport. So it was nice to get out there and see the infrastructure that we have at Miranda Park. And I can see a vision now of the event that you're leading, because I've been out there and I saw Miranda Park. So glad I got a chance to do that.
I made a mistake. The Lodge-Now used to be called the Bahama Star, and the Bahama Star came to the rescue of the Armis Castle. So,
Thank you for the clarification, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, let's see, I attended on June 7th a SCAG, a Go Human meeting with Mark Watkins regarding traffic safety campaign and the availability of a toolkit that SCAG has available for local jurisdictions. It's a portable kit that we can bring out for special events like the Wellness Festival, maybe Touch a Truck. And the mobile toolkit actually includes physically includes what a parklet would look like, a curb extension, a separated bike lane, and even an artistic crosswalk and a median refuge island. It's signage, it would give the public an example of what that might look like if we were to use any one of these tools to improve traffic safety in our city. And so Mark and I still need to talk about what pieces of the toolkit we might want to have brought in for an upcoming event, because we don't really want to put anything out that that's not possible for the city. So more to come on that project and that resource through SCAG. I did attend the Pride Raising ceremony as well. I attended via Zoom the World Oceans Day. It was very interesting and really well done. The port always does a terrific job. Both the council member McQueen Lejeune and I attended the Public Works Pension Liabilities meeting. Very helpful to understand what's going on there. I also attended 2 Continuum of Care for the homeless county meetings. One was for a youth focus group, and the other one was just a regular board meeting. Also attended the Whales Festival Community Mural Celebration at the Channel Islands Maritime Museum, where they unveiled the interactive mural that was painted during the Whale Festival. And I wanted to see it because we've been in discussion with Maya Zumaya and Tony to perhaps bring one of those interactive murals to one of our festivals coming up this summer. So it's really neat. If you haven't seen it, you can go to the Whales, the Channel Islands Harbor Whales Tale Festival, and you'll see a I don't know what they call it, it's high speed version of the painting of it. So it's done, it's condensed version of or display of people actually painting the mural. And I really liked it because it's just so interactive, and both adults and children can enjoy learning how to paint on the mural. Met with our new city manager, James Vega, really looking forward to getting him on board. Also attended this morning the Legislative Communication and Membership Committee of SCAG, where we discussed various pieces of legislation that are going forward to the legislator related to traffic safety. I think we put 2 pieces of legislation on the watch list because we thought there were some issues with both pieces. Listened in on the Board of Supervisors meeting. I like to do that because inevitably you learn something about what's going on countywide that affects us here in Port Hueneme. And I learned that we have a very different pavement management plan than the rest of the county. For some reason, it seemed to be a concern of the board why we were different. I'm not sure why. There was also discussion of the Levine campaign contributions by county council, and that was very informative. And then I attended a Coastal Commission Smart Growth and Environmental Justice lunch online today as well. I submitted a nomination for the Heroes Award. I need to follow up with who's ever collecting the applications because I didn't have the nominees' phone number. So who can I give that phone number to? Can I give that just to you, Tony, and you can make sure it gets to the right person? Because I just put in a 555 kind of number just so the application would be accepted. But I now have the phone number, so I'd like to get that to you for a complete application. I'm continuing to work with staff on one project is a grant with the National Endowment of the Arts for the establishment of an art council, has approved by council at previous meetings this year. We also need additional money to offset the costs of the mural for the library. We need to fund 2 interactive murals that were proposed by OPAC, the Oxnard Performing Arts Center, and also working on the possibility of funding a 3D letter sign similar to what they have in Puerto Vallarta and Pismo Beach. So we're looking into getting a cost estimate on that, just to bring back to council for consideration. I want to make sure that we have an idea of what might be involved in putting a 3D letter sign or marquee up somewhere in the city. I've heard the council express interest in that, so I just ran with it and started researching costs. I want to remind council that my work with staff is part of the Mural Project Committee, which was approved by council last year. And on the May 1st meeting, council also unanimously approved to have a future agenda item to discuss establishment of an art council. So my work with staff is authorized and I'm not working in violation of any city council policies. On a personal level, I received permission to access the Woolly Flood Control Channel for graffiti abatement. I'm going to purchase out of my own pocket matching paint for the wall, and for the flood control channel, we'll get that from the county. And we're going to get in there with a couple of local volunteers and keep up on the graffiti that as soon as you paint over it, it's back. So we're a group of local neighbors want to kind of stay on top of it. So that's something like the beach cleanup. It's not a city-sponsored event. It's just something I'm doing on my own. And then on July 8th, I've been invited to join Supervisor Lopez's office and staff in working on graffiti abatement in that same area. And I believe Councilmember McQueen-Lejeune is also going to join us. And I think that's all I have. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Yes, I attended my normal community or committee meetings, but that was one question I was going to have for you is the graffiti, because I was approached by someone from Supervisor Lopez's office about that as well, but he thought I was a part of the email, but I didn't know anything about it. The graffiti thing that the county is going to start doing and taking care of the canals. So the Wellness Fair is August 7th. Just want to remind the community about that. It's at the community center. And apparently the county is going to be putting in a youth wellness center that's going to provide Wainimi and South Oxnard mental health services, and it'll be at 720 North Ventura Road. Do we know anything about that?
We have a meeting coming up, and I think you're on the
Yeah.
list. You and I are on that list.
It's a
plan
right
for it.
next to the
Yes,
Taco Bell.
Right, as we recall, we had the beachside delivery issue, and that's now been resolved. And it looks like they are selling the building to the county, who will be basically putting these services in there. They are allowed by right in the zoning ordinance, so
No, I'm
great,
glad.
at least we'll have
Great.
this type of use coming into the city.
Terrific.
Yes, Councilwoman Martha McQueen Lejeune and I were invited to speak at the Juneteenth celebration, along with people from pretty much almost every area around Ventura County. It was a wonderful celebration, and I think it's actually my first time attending it, and I was surprised to see how large scale it was. Although Martha said it's smaller in normal years, but it's a wonderful event, and the sun was out, and I got sunburnt, but that's okay.
You delivered a great speech, though. I watched it online. Yeah, you did a good job.
It's amazing what a little practice can do. And that's all I have.
Nice. I'll keep it short. I've attended my regular meetings, met with VNA Lopez, James Vega, the librarian. I think the list kind of goes on and on. But what I really just want to tell you guys is we're getting ready for the Sister City visit. And last time I checked, last Friday, there was already 11 responses to the form. There was also a video that got pushed on Facebook, which I'm hoping maybe can get pushed out through our YouTube channel. But that's pretty much it.
Well, do we want to tell them more about what we've got planned? I mean, we have 2 days of tours we're going to do. We're going to take this group around for
Well, we're
different
planning
tours.
on meeting up tomorrow with Tony.
Yeah, we have a schedule, so
I don't know unless you guys have questions.
it'll happen July 10th
10th
and
and the
11th.
11th.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna be taking them to the CB Museum, Cannabis Lounge, the water the water plant, the beach. Hopefully have the real guppies.
I have to share this with you. So Bobby and I were talking. Yeah, we were talking about the group going to the Cannabis Lounge. And it would been not, I think we had it planned for the day that they're going to go to the not the embassy, the
Mexican consulate.
the consulate. And Bobby was concerned that if they used during the Cannabis Lounge, while they were at the Cannabis Lounge, and then go to the consulate, that they'd be all freaked out by the time they got to the consulate. So it probably wouldn't be a good idea. But I think I know I'm not trying to scare this attorney in any way, but we're not going to allow them to consume during the tour.
Just so you know.
Just so you know. Yeah, right.
Bring your own. Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing all the information.
Okay.
Hopefully tomorrow when we meet up. Let's move on to the request for future agenda items. About the only thing that I want to just bring up is something that Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Missy Perez had brought up to our attention, is that through the port and the City Port Standing Committee, we're planning on going to DC in September. So I'd like an agendized item on that, so that we can get it approved. Like a second, probably.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
And then I don't know if anyone's interested in adding those sea lion signs and just pushing out through social media not to touch the animals, but that was brought up by Joan.
Yeah.
Staff pick up
Can
on
I,
that? Okay.
So I did a little research on Brown Act, and I talked to a couple attorneys, and, there's a lot of attorneys in the world, and you could pick a topic and you could get great arguments on both sides of the topic. And so if you're going to be a purist on the Brown Act, they're saying that it's kind of interesting that you could have an item that's not on the agenda, but you could vote on it so that it could be on the agenda. So I was wondering, are we walking a very thin line, or are we working it from both angles? Because it kind of made sense to me, like, wait a minute, that's a good point. We are voting on an item that's not on the agenda, but we're voting on an item to put it on the agenda. And like just right now, we bring up these signs and it's like, well, wait a minute, it's not on the agenda. That was a public comment. We're not supposed to talk about it. So could we maybe take a second look at our agenda setting and kind of look at it from the other side? And because I feel like with our prior city manager, we couldn't resonate as a council our priorities. And I think out of frustration, we did this. And then it's still frustrating because there's a number of items that have been voted on, approved, and they haven't come on an agenda. So anyways.
To answer your question, we are walking a very fine line, which is the reason why there can be no council member conversation or discussion on the matter. This was done to give council the maximum amount of leeway in formulating its own agendas. As you're certainly aware, prior to this change in the policy manual, council did not set the agenda. The city manager did.
Right. Just want to point out that a very strong and coherent argument can be made that every time we vote on an item that's not on the agenda, that we're violating the Brown Act. So again, and again, with any issue, you're going to get very good arguments on both sides. So it's kind of hard to navigate, when you're hearing compelling arguments from both sides.
And so the argument then is that council should not be allowed to set its own agenda. And we go back to the way things were before.
I am not advocating going back to the way things were before.
I'm just being clear.
Right. But I think with our new city manager coming on board, I think maybe perhaps we could get into a more form, because I don't know of any other
So we're not
public
going to discuss any of this right,
Right.
now, right?
I will confer with the new city manager and we will bring something back to council.
Okay. So
Okay. All
I
right.
don't have to make an agenda to vote to get it on the
Been
agenda?
I will take it upon myself to do it.
Okay. Are there any other requests for future agenda items?
Yes. Okay, you did the BC trip. I would like, and I'm sorry if it was on that list you gave us. I apologize if I missed it, but I'd like an update on the street sweeping alternative schedule that we discussed last year. That I don't know what happened to it, but it seemed to disappear. So no needing for a vote, or do we vote for that?
It's already on the list.
Okay. We need to put on the agenda, what?
Go.
The community benefit fund discussion, because we need
Oh,
to
that's true.
come up with some ideas.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's Tony, is that some foreseeable future?
Well, absolutely. After the first of the fiscal year, which is coming right around the corner,
Okay.
July 1, we've got 6 months to come up with the list, get it through both your body as well as the Oxnard Harbor District's body, and get a list approved. So yes, it would be prudent of us to start thinking about those discussions, probably maybe
Next council meeting. Yeah.
possibly next council meeting, yes.
Okay.
Because we do go dark in August, and if not then certainly September.
Okay, and the final one, also, again, apologize, I don't recall it being on that list, but I'd like an update on the dispensaries that received permits and were supposed to open, but something, I don't know what's happening to them, but they've failed, like, for instance, Red Mule.
There'll be a second round of development agreements coming up, most likely in September, where we will have that discussion.
Perfect, okay, I'm done.
Okay. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 3rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 9:34 p.m. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Staff.